Hello, everyone, and welcome finally to the last episode of Mousecapades. Epilogue. We are unfortunately missing one player today, but quorum will be included in everything that goes on here, so have no worries. I am Joe. I have been your dungeon master for these past couple of evenings, and this is my last time that I'm going to be one. Thank you so much for having me. I go by they, them pronouns, and you can find me at the Cat in Charge on Twitter, TikTok, and pretty much anywhere else. I do cosplay, I talk about tabletop stuff, and I have a couple of cool projects coming up. And that's it from me. Rue, will you introduce yourself for us?
I'm Rue. I use he or they pronouns, and I've been playing Ayla, who uses they, them pronouns, and this will be their last day with us today. You can find me on Twitter as at Ilana Knight 13 and just Ilana Knight without the 13, basically anywhere else. And I do art commissions and writing commissions and sensitivity consultations for Romani cultural issues. And also, if you're interested in applying, I will be DMing, or rather not DMing, but narrating a Powered by the Apocalypse system here on the channel next season. So if you're interested in applying, I'd love to play with you.
Oh yeah. All right. And Ari?
May or may not be applying for that. We'll see.
You should. You
Um,
should.
I'm Ari. I'm really cool or whatever, and I've been playing Joel, who's also pretty cool. I use he/him pronouns. Joel also uses he/him pronouns, and we're going to be parting ways soon. But I'm going to kind of try to convert Joel into a character on my TikTok. So we'll see how that goes. But you can follow me on TikTok at the Frog Prince as one word, and on Twitter at the Frog_Prince. I, as of late, more have been talking about social justice representation, just cultural awareness, and especially right now, just trying to raise our consciousness and all that jazz. So follow me if you like that stuff, and fighting games. I still talk about those a lot. Kind of less relevant now with everything, but they're cool.
All right, so for this episode today, since it's more of an epilogue, it is going to be a lot more like a fireside storytelling. Not going to be rolling any dice. We're just kind of sum up what happens after the end of the campaign, since the miniseries itself was to cover what was going to be in the module. And this is more about our fantastic characters, because we have some pretty fantastic characters on this stream. So let's get right into it with our recap then. Last time, our heroes journeyed to Abershaw Acres, a honey farm on the outside of the outskirts of Daggerford, with the intent to answer a message for help that they got, written by Matameo. Instead of a hapless farmer, however, they discovered a little mouse magician who shrunk them down to his size and introduced them to his home of Ashaw, a tiny town built within the wall of an abandoned barn. He asked the party for help to save their town from 5 portents predicted by the town's oracle, Dawn, which the party heroically accepted. The party then met a number of figures, such as the uptight Father Ansel and his apprentice Suri, women of the people and captain of the guard, Bailey Bluebell, her guard masters of extremely varied personalities, Ada, Thorn, and Dimitri. You met the secretive Aubrey and her urchin mouthlings, as well as some other kind faces like Grandmother Bobbin and Zeta Buzzy Bee and Basil the Glassblower. Eventually, the truth of the portents was uncovered. It was a ruse all along, a long drawn-out setup by the young Dawn in order to seek revenge for her bitterness, forcing herself into the pinnacle of a child prodigy as a way to make up for her dissatisfaction at the pace of which she was being taught magic. Her final ploy came in the form of a summoned aberration of shadow and flame, an oil-based creation called a Hellgeist, which was destroyed by the party after a hard fight. As Dawn's true colors were finally revealed, the citizens were evacuated safely. The portents have indeed passed without causing the destruction as Ashaw, and therefore Ayla, Joel, and Coram are rightly crowned as heroes of the town. And that's where Mousecapade ends, but that's not quite where this is going to end, because people have to face consequences for their actions, specifically the little Oracle Dawn. So, to sort of sum up, and you guys can feel free to interject if you think that your character would do something. Dawn is essentially taken to trial, only in front of the council members. No one else is, really there for it. Bailey makes the first, I guess you could say, attempt for justice. Immediately suggests that Dawn should be executed. Selinawe completely agrees with that immediately. Matameo and Ansel, pretty unsurprisingly, they disagree. They both suggest for exile instead, and after a bit of an argument, it's agreed upon that Dawn will be sent away from the barn, and if she is ever returned, then they actually will fight her. Ansel offers to go with Dawn, saying his apprentice Suri is old enough to run the temple by herself. Matameo, knowing how young Suri is, for those of you who aren't aware, the ages are measured in seasons. Suri is a little less than 1 season, which makes her about the equivalent of like 12. That's not for someone that you want to leave the hands of a church into.
No.
Madameo realized his mistake because he had put Dawn in the role of the council member way too early. Dawn was about 3 seasons old. She was about 18, 17 in mouse years. Very, very child prodigy. So Madameo offers instead. And Dawn doesn't really have a choice, but kind of bitterly, she accepts his company. And they make plans to, after a couple of days, eventually will leave Ashaw and go off on whatever adventure that they want to go off on. Until then, there's a couple of things that you, the party, can do while you're still in town. Of course, it needs to be cleaned up. Some new choices of leadership need to be made. And one of the first things that is called to attention is a peace treaty between the denizens of the Underdark and the inhabitants of Ashaw. Finally understanding that pretty much the majority of their conflicts were all fabricated. Madameo, before he leaves, his final act as one of the council members of Ashaw is to put this peace treaty into order and ask the denizens of the Underdark to meet at least in the middle of the barn for them to talk things over. The party, of course, you are invited, and also attending with the pack leader Jet and Captain Bailey is Aubrey, who you find out had faked her own death after being discovered by Dawn, and she also fled to the Underdark to live out some of her days with the mice that she had helped leave Ashaw over the past couple of seasons that she had been doing whatever underground ring of crimes that she was doing, her little Robin Hood deal going on. Yeah, Aubrey is reintroduced back, and with a couple of notes from our dear Miranda from Quorum, he suggests that Aubrey be one of the new council members.
Absolutely.
Definitely, literally, like we all second that. Like, there's no, yeah.
It is a unanimous vote of the
It is
outsiders.
We're literally all like, we vote that Audrey is queen, and all of the children are now the council members. But that Joelle just stepped forward and is like, we have decided, and they like did not talk about this, that Aubrey will be in charge of all of the Shaw, and all of the children will just going. It's like telling, distributing all this information for everyone. You know, duh, why not? Obviously,
it does take not a lot of. It doesn't exactly take much convincing to win over Father Ansel, because he now does kind of trust your judgment a little bit more. But it's pretty obvious that they're going to take some time to actually get to like each other. Aubrey very hesitantly accepts the position. She isn't entirely sure what to do in a leadership position, but it is very quickly pointed out that she is technically the leader of this little gang of street urchins. Another thing that you actually find out about the children of the Rod of Wood is a couple of times throughout the campaign, there was a group called the Runners that kind of continued to be alluded to. And essentially what they are messengers. They actually, yeah, primarily they're messengers. And they're mostly used by the council to send secret messages. But there's also some of them who run outside of the walls. They're called runners or scouts. They go outside of the walls of the barn and they collect supplies. When Aubrey is instated into the council, she reveals to the party, not quite to the council just yet, that the urchins have always been the runners. And she has been doing this for a very, very long time in order to give these children a sense of purpose, a sense of community, and eventually when they grow up, they already have pretty much all of the contacts that they need to get some sort of apprenticeship or a job because they already know the workings of the community as well.
for power, arming the working class.
Another thing that you find out is Dawn, before being adopted by Madameo and Ansel, was one of these urchins, which explains why Aubrey knew about her so well and had a little bit more insight into her true colors than maybe some of the other council members did.
Whoa.
I love that.
Multi-classing. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, is there anything that you would like to suggest for your characters to do? Is there
Ayla wants to like set up, because they're kind of responsible for a lot of the like upper infrastructure being burned and broken down. So they want to spend some time like helping the mice rebuild the rope structures and stuff.
okay.
Because if it wasn't for them, they wouldn't have gotten blown up.
And
I would
there
like
are plenty of weavers who make rope, who not only help you learn how to like string it up, but you actually kind of get to learn how they make the very base materials, more or less, of a shawl. Kind of a combination of stealing things from the human world, scavenging things, and sometimes they also make their own little mice-sized tools as well. Mm-hmm.
I would like to point out how we are, because all of this happened in 2 days.
3 days.
3 days. 3 days. including the last part, because the last 2 sessions was like 1 day, right?
Mm-hmm.
The last maybe 3 sessions. Either way, that means that the deal that we made with the Underdark to not attack like expires as of now. Like as of this happening now, this is when they come back. So pointing that out because like, damn. But also Joelle would probably try to like spend, and I don't know if Quorum would do this, but this is what we would probably do just in person anyway. Try to go and like finish up like, okay, this is how we're going to now not hate each other, and try to just play diplomat with them as well and just see what's going on. And for however long that takes, because I know we're going to be doing just interacting with the town for a while. Obviously, I think it's unstated that we help clean up the things that can immediately be cleaned up.
Mm-hmm.
And but actually, I'm gonna hand it off because after this, I want to go to the temple and just interact with Suri more because I literally never got to talk. I had like one actual interaction with Suri, and then Joelle. I think Joelle had like 0 actual interactions with Suri, like extended interactions, and it's like they would have been like the dream team out here. There's a timeline where Joelle solo tanked the entire Hell Guys with Suri just in the back, just healing, and then everyone was just shooting at the Hell Guys from behind Joelle. He was just standing there solo tanking and eating everything. There is a timeline where that was real, but it's not this one. So I will do that after.
Speaking of Joel and his religious stuff, one of the first things that happens after the confrontation with Dawn at the end of the last episode, Joel is briefly but very, very suddenly on set, surrounded by a beautiful, delicate rose gold light, which then hardens almost like glass and breaks with the noise of kind of a jingling bell. And Joel, you know, because you have read about it so many times, this means
me,
Lady Firehair, your matron, has indeed accepted the completion of your task that you've been sent on here. Your Etmazoad is complete, and you can return to the Temple of Joy whenever you want as a fully fledged cleric of Sunni.
Sunni. Shout out to Sune. She my main B. We've been really going through this. We've been in these streets all the time. It happens, and then he just goes on the end of the song monologue for like 3 minutes. Like, shout out to Sune, bro. Like, did nobody believe me, bro? My teacher said I couldn't get nowhere. Like, just going on all this nonsense. The way that like, whatever. Let me stop. Love it.
Ayla claps very enthusiastically because they're not entirely sure what's happening, but they can tell you're really excited about it. And they're a theatrical person, so they just clap very excitedly the entire 2 minutes that you're talking.
Just like, shout out Sune. Just been there like, yeah. He's like, shout out Lady Sune. Shout out Firehead, all my Fireheads out there. Y'all know what's going on. Just like, just going.
A couple of other things that happen while rebuilding the town is Coram put some of his magic to use in his growing and shrinking powers to get materials to help him build Rashaw. And one of his personal projects is to help renovate the slums. One of the very specific things that he does for that is set up a milkshake bar with the help of Daisy and some of the little orphans.
Yes.
And as the kind of days go by, as you are renovating the slums, which is very, very close to the sort of junkyard of assorted parts, a lot of materials from the junkyard are scrounged up to make repairs. It's pretty much mentioned that this is the most that anyone has really gone and taken from the junkyard in a very long time. And what is discovered with the change in leadership is the food shortage of Ashaw that was mentioned a couple of times. Not something that was actively a problem, but something that may turn into a problem, especially if the portents were to get any worse. You discover, essentially, a couple of warehouses in the junkyard full of rations of the missing food, all of which were being kept by the merchant prince Selanawe as a way to make more money himself through guarding the rations and raising the demand while pretending that there is a lower supply than there actually was. So Selanawe is very quickly also thrown out of the shop.
Ayla, just knife emoji.
We elect Bobbin to fill in Selanawe's place. And Bobbin's like,
there wasn't a whole lot of Selanawe in the miniseries, which is totally fine because he's not very important of a character, and he's also not very interesting of a character. If you learn more about him, you learn that he is pretty lazy, pretty greedy, pretty loose with his loyalties, and is the only member of the council who, if you approach with a claim that Dawn is actually evil, he's the only one who will immediately agree with you. Because he's like, sure, that sounds plausible and like a way for me to get more power, let's throw her out. But
Joe, I love your capitalist OC.
Thank you. He's a total coward and a sleazeball, and if you accuse him of what he's done, he will confess to it and beg for his life.
Fact. The accuracy.
Another one of Quorum's tasks is to try and make peace with Jet, which is something that goes along pretty smoothly. Jet and Bailey do a lot more hanging out, learning the way that each of them train their own personal guard. And pretty soon there is some talks of introducing snake mounts or frog mounts, potentially, into the Ashaw Guard.
Not the snake mount.
If there is any opportunity for Ayla to ride a snake or a frog, even as a test subject, they are taking it at first glance.
Not the snake. That's so cool. What?
Ayla, you do get a couple of opportunities as many of the creatures of the sewers take to you with a sort of familiarity that you don't fully understand at first, even though they're sort of from the Underdark. You understood that the mice of Ashaw only called it that because that's kind of what they understood the humans to fear, but it's really just the sewers. But you find out before too long that there is a rat from the sewers that heard the name Ayla at some point, recognized it, and immediately began trying to find out where they were, because he was pretty sure that he knew them. And Ayla, you get a couple of days, maybe a couple of weeks into the rebuilding of Ashaw. And as the peace treaty has continued on between Ashaw and the sewers, and more of the denizens of the Underdark are coming in, living in Ashaw, and there's more tunnels being built, there's more tradeways, there's kind of more of a integration going on. You are eventually approached by this little rat in his little vest and his little suspenders and his little stripy shirt, and there is just something so familiar that you can't quite place, and then you realize it that at the carnival that you and your family used to stay at, there is a couple of little trained rats who would do acrobatic tricks as one of the numbers. And this little rat comes up to you and goes, Ayla?
Hello.
Not the acrobat.
Goes, Ayla Nasaran, right?
Yes.
You,
Long time no see, and I guess I'm much smaller now.
your folks have been looking for you. They're so worried. You, ha, you don't know. They go to Neverwinter every year looking for you.
I mean, I've been looking for them, but I guess we've just never crossed paths.
Every flame rule, you should go. They always perform.
I will. I will. Thank you. And they will like grab this rat and like pull him into a hug and like spin him around.
He gives you a very tight hug back.
Thank you.
Oh my God.
I will go straight there as soon as I can.
It's incredible to see you again. I didn't. That's a small world it is.
I'm very grateful.
And Joelle's in the back. Joelle's like,
Ayla
what?
is crying.
Yes! This is just very,
Ayla
very
is
far
crying.
away. Very, very, very far in the back. Just screaming. You hear very faintly, what? Yes! Period! Like, no idea what's going on. Just yelling. And then later he's like, oh my God, that was like literally so cute. Sorry, I didn't see what was happening, but like that was adorable. That's literally so beautiful. What?
Joe, I love you.
Oh, come on. What?
I was
I
halfway
can't.
expecting that you were actually wanting to go to the sewers during the miniseries, and
Me too.
so I was like, "There's definitely some circus rats."
Circus rats.
Because, like, let's be real. How many sentient rat and mouse communities are there in the world? 12? Maybe. For real. Like, it's between like 7 and 12, to be perfectly real. Somebody got to be here. They got it.
It's so good. Thank you, Joe.
Of course.
Hey, approve. What? Ugh.
All right. Let's see. So right now in the council we have Father Ansel, who is still in charge of the temple. Joel, you wanted to do something with the temple, didn't you?
I wanted to go out to the temple and first of all, help continue healing people, because like there are still a lot of really sick people, and if I like devote my existence for like a one work day, we could probably clear everyone out. So kind of just like
with about a full day of all of the divine magic users in the temple, of which there are maybe like 5 real ones, and totally exhausted spell slots full of lesser restoration, you do eventually cure all of the mice of their mild onset poisoning, which you figure out was caused by Dawn. And one of the things that was kind of a tip on that as well was Ansel mentioning that Dawn makes tea for all of the people in the temple. And if you
yeah, it's the tea.
A little bit of poison, can't really tell.
The tea.
So
yep.
the plague ends as quickly as it began, and before too long, kind of the same timeline as the renovations really kicking into gear. All of the mice of the Shaw return to their normal, happy, and healthy states.
Sidebar, I want to point out how like I think I said this like off stream, but I think the sentiment holds for pretty much all of us. Well, actually, I'm not gonna say that Joel moment, but it definitely holds for me. I think that Dawn is probably my favorite media villain, like fictional villain ever, because Dawn very specifically appeals to multiple tropes that I love. I love precocious children, things like because we grew up on Roald Dahl books and Matilda and Harriet the Spy and little kids like having a lot of responsibility and being really cool. So I've always loved that. I always love like quaint magic. Teapot cottagecore witch is just like yes. And then she has the butterfly shawl that's just not only so beautiful and just lilting and fey, but she's isn't she, you said a deer mouse?
Yes.
Like everything about her is so, and it's also very neutral. It's things that we associate with goodness and cuteness, but are not inherently good or cute. The only element about her that's like net good is probably like the butterfly element is something that has like no negative connotation, and even that has the butterfly effect thing, which is kind of like very similar to what happened with her at the end. So like everything about Dawn is just like yes. And if I could play as Dawn in anything, that would be like I wouldn't do anything other than that for sure. Any RPG, any fighting game, anything like just I'd be like insta lock Dawn. So yeah, that's my mixtape. But I said that because I was thinking about how you said if we had noticed it was the T, and I was thinking it's always the damn T. Like when it was about when Ayla was when it was to activate the teapot, it was the T, and Ayla was like the T. Boom! Like no T, no T, no more T. Because it's like you gonna do something like this. It's something, and it's cool how that was kind of like a very almost generic medium for an oracle, but was very like unique to her, and it had so many applications, and it was also a very small subset of her power, but it being a conduit to her powers just made it so much more everything, just made it was just really cool.
I definitely Dawn was always the antagonist, even in like the very first iteration of this, where I was just like, I'm just gonna throw mice at my players in my home game. Dawn has evolved a whole lot as a character, but she was always the antagonist, and she was always like a ward essentially of Matameo, because he technically did adopt her, but also in Shaw, the whole concept like apprenticeships is supposed to be you're not only teaching this child like how to work and do this job, you're also kind of supposed to be like a co-parent for them. And so that's why you have like Reed, who is like so protected by Basil, the glass blower, and why Cerie is kind of like only seen with Father Ansel, and with Reed apprenticeship under Matameo, even though it was technically like a boarding school where he lived there, he wasn't considered like adopted. But Dawn was completely abandoned, and Matameo was like, "I'm your dad now," but he had no idea how to be a dad. He only knew how to be a teacher, and so he kind of raised her more like a student than as a kid. And Reed sort of appeared and reappeared and changed and was a couple of different things throughout the construct of the campaign. But one of the things that I really wanted to keep for Dawn was that she was motivated by revenge for some reason. And she was like a very, very young child prodigy.
That always just comes with. Sorry.
No, you're good. Just I wanted a character who was like super innocent, very lovable, wouldn't even like begin to guess that they're behind everything.
I feel like the way that you create a compelling villain, the proverbial you, the way that anyone creates a compelling villain. A good example is Maleficent. Is like you really question whether or not they're actually a villain in the context of their own lives. Like if you have a villain that's just like at some point you just are like, damn, like are you even a human? Like you're just doing evilness all the time, you know? Like 50s villains. But Dawn, like you kind of look at it and you're like, yo, what? Because like this is something that, especially with children, and this is in some, especially with children, you see how they get taken to a point. You know, you see how like this is a thing. This isn't like I want money, so I'm gonna kill people. You know, it's like it's some there's levels to the reasons that they end up the way that they are, which is why it's more than just, you know, well, let's kill them. It's like, well, what's happening? Like, what's going on here? And it's just to see all of that put into something that's so cool. And on top of that, so like wrapped in a bow on brand, you know, it's just everything.
I guess at this point in the episode, we can also kind of transition into talking about Mousecapades as a whole module instead of being fully like in story with the epilogue. Would actually, because this is something that I had to ask my other players. Everyone does kind of have like homes to get back to, but is anyone essentially going to set up like residence in a shop, either temporary or permanent?
Ayla is not. Ayla has some parents to find.
Nah, Joel's too bougie. Joel probably will try to stay for like one day and be like, it's so dirty. Like, it's so dusty here. But I think he would probably stay just to have fun with the Children of the Rotting Wood because they're great and they're just and also he doesn't have anywhere to be at any point in time, so he'll stay just for a little bit. But he also does have a classroom to return to and his own children. And it's only been less than a week, so they probably didn't miss that much of the lesson plan, so he can go back and just continue teaching.
I mean, you were also supposed to be gone for like 2 months on your little foot journey.
True. Most of it was at the beginning with the walking, to be honest.
Yeah.
Which means that now we have a week and a half to go back to that town and hang out with Bertram.
Oh yeah, you can go see Bertram.
We have a minute to go back and be like, hey, I just almost died like 12 times and saved the whole civilization quarter-handedly. Would that be quarter-handedly? How would you like conjugate single-handedly to be with multiple people?
I think I would say
like
quarter-handedly. Yeah, 1/3 handedly, quarter-handedly, half-handedly.
Yeah, half-handedly. Yeah, 1/3 handedly saved the whole town. But whatever. But how was your day?
Bertram is indeed elated to see you again. Asks if you would like any more danishes, any more cookies, because you bought an incredible amount the last time. And
they came in clutch.
Do you still have them stuffed into your sensor?
I took them out before we had that fight because I didn't want what happened to happen, so I wouldn't get like destroyed. But whatever, it was good that I didn't mess them up. Yeah, I should still smell like a little bit too done cookies, like my entire body.
You have a new cologne. It's just cookie smell.
While you were in Daggerford after the rebuilding of Ashaw, going to visit your bakery boyfriend, at one point, one day you go in the morning to get like your coffee or whatever. It's a fantasy Dunkin' Donuts, you know. And Bertrand has a little plate of cookies for you. They're all red. He says that they are strawberry shortcakes, and he made them red to match your robes. And it wasn't intentional, but they did come out looking a little bit like hearts, but they're like totally supposed to be circles.
That's my boyfriend or whatever. Well, whatever. I don't even like him. He's so stupid. And he literally leaves me. Literally goes outside and he breaks down. And then comes back and is like, thanks or whatever. And then post something on Instagram about it. Take selfies with it.
He posts something on like the community board. He's like, it's over here. It's over for y'all hosts.
Wait a minute. He goes back to Ashaw and shrinks himself back down and posts it and then goes back to Dagger first. And it's like, y'all need to see me. I look good not like this today. I'm dead. Yes. That is what happened. I wanted to extend an offer to I don't know if Bobbin has a family. She gives me very much my whole family is established elsewhere energy. I wanted to ask her if she wanted to come stay with me out in the temple or in the walls of the bakery, because Joelle would most definitely take a glass ball and string it up like how people do with the hanging plants and just create a system in order for her to like exist inside of the bakery herself, with like rocking chair space, and then like you can go in the walls and like have an actual space, but like this is kind of like your deck and it would be hanging there. Because I've been thinking about that for a minute. I was like, Bobbin would be chilling. I was like, even if she didn't want to use it, she could still have it strung up in a shawl and like have her own like, again, like porch to be an old lady on and knit and then go back up.
Yeah, Bobbin absolutely is that kind of person. She, all of her children are grown up and they all have like children of their own. And she's just kind of like just old and by herself, and you offer to make her a porch and she's immediately just giving you like brownies and little like cups of hot chocolate, and she's pushing just like little sweets your way like the entire time. She's like, oh, aren't you just so sweet? You just don't see young people who are so kind anymore, and you deserve all, you're just a nice young boy. And yeah,
We stand Bobbin, like the way she is so unproblematic.
The one scene wonder.
The one scene wonder, unproblematic.
I love her.
We love her.
While we're still in a shot, Ayla wants to like teach the kids basic gymnastics tricks.
Let's go.
They want to lay out mats and just go.
You offer to teach the kids, and immediately the little white mouse Wilhelmina is like, oh, are you gonna teach us how to throw the knives?
I can. Can we do cartwheels first?
Okay. Cartwheels are as fun as throwing knives, though.
No, but it's a good practice, and then you can cartwheel and throw a knife.
She goes, wow, and just runs to the mat.
Ayla will give special time to, if Wilhelmina wants, like they will get like a really tiny, like dull knife, so that Wilhelmina can practice knife throwing.
Wilhelmina goes and begins teaching the other kids, and eventually they're all throwing little shards of cookies at each other during their spare time.
I've created a monster.
Cookies are now the $1 million pieces of the Shaw. They are now the new.
A Shaw is very much they've got little bug farms. They eat kind of like tiny little berries. There's a little itty bitty garden that kind of grows right close up against the wall on the outside, like in the grass. And most of the things that they have, due to like arcane reasons or just what you get from scavenging, their gardens are proportional to their size. So most of like the little fruits, berries, and like squashes that you see, they are little and mouse-sized. And sometimes, especially during the harvest season, which is right now, sometimes they will get entire pumpkin from the pumpkin patch in a shaw, just like a little one that they won't really miss, and it feeds like the entire town.
Wow. The aesthetic of an open pumpkin.
They just kind of like take the pumpkin and then it's like it's giant and like all the little kids are like playing inside of it like it's a playhouse and it's all hollowed out.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. The next Halloween, Joelle comes and brings jack-o'-lanterns as mood lighting for a Shaw itself.
That is really precious.
The way that these are everything. This town is cottagecore. This is actually a subset of cottagecore because I was looking at a lot of cottagecore stuff and I was like, this is cute, but it's not really the same as what a Shaw is because it's more. It's so much more trinket-y and what should I say? Like predicated on resourcefulness. It's almost like cottagecore, but like actual camping and like scrounging put together. And like maybe even like post-apocalypse cottagecore would be a decent description.
There's a word for it, but I forget what it is at the top of my head.
One of the best descriptions that I saw for it was scavenger punk.
That's really good.
Very kind of like borrowers-esque. That's very much where I see it as because and if you would go into like any of the residential houses, you'll see that a lot of the chairs are made out of little like corks and there's of course toothpicks and matches, but there's also little like sewing cushions, little like bobbins that'll make up like chairs and tables. There's like a little like can of sardines that's used to like that's used as like a storage container where you just like roll it up and you roll it back down to like keep something from
Oh my gosh.
So good.
I feel like one thing that kind of it's not thematically in line with the Shaw, so it kind of makes sense that it didn't show up as much, but I do want to utilize it heavily in the visual of Bobbin's porch thing is yarn. I feel like because yarn is like obviously not really going to be prevalent here because it's a very specific process to make it and it's not really like conducive to being that small because it's going to catch on like everything that you have. And also like if it gets wet, it's screwed. So in their environment where they kind of can't control everything like that, it's just not super great. But that's definitely something that I would want to use for some elements of Bobbin's little thing, like tiny pillows and like goofy stuff that's basically just for visual.
Yeah, absolutely. There is a very thriving weaving, dyeing, and tailor community in Ashaw. Most of the fibers that they make are out of grass fibers, or sometimes if the runners can go all the way to the field and like bring back some like cotton fibers, that's a little bit more rare. And then of course there's as part of something that the Underdark kind of brings them, they have very, very safe, completely animal friendly silkworm farms, and they make very, very nice silk fabrics out of it.
Yes.
And with the resourcefulness for like the buildings with Bobbin's place and everything, a lot of the more kind of higher up people in Ashaw tend to have abodes that are not constructed to be houses initially. It's more so like human objects that they kind of like took and reclaimed, such as Ansel having the fallen chandelier. Dawn has a teapot. Matameo's is the grandfather clock. Bailey lives in the barracks, which is part briefcase, and another part of it is the card setup. And then Selinawe, whose home you never went to, is a reliquary to hold like religious objects and stuff, and then a goblet as well, and they're kind of like stacked on top of each other, and they're just super gaudy and laid in gems, and he's like super frivolous about pretty much everything, and that's one of the like biggest indicators of his personality is his obnoxiously shiny home that he insists on keeping that way.
Don't at me. What, because I wanted to ask, because Matameo is leaving with Dawn, so who's going to be like the town, like, wizard? Like, who's going to manage their arcane things? Because, like you said, like, the crops are all small because of arcane things.
One of the things that Dawn herself actually kind of brings up during her trial is the essentially it was more of a caution uh, that was taken as a like no one can ever replace me. I'm going to give all of these warnings to make it seem very, very hard so that I always seem like I was at the top of my game. And only one of the points that she makes really sticks and holds valid, and that is that the mice themselves, and it's sort of the size that they're in and in the state that they're in, where they're not fully sentient yet. They're not proper like beast folk the way that like Quorum is. They've pretty much just achieved like the first barest little bit of sentience thanks to just like the natural magic that Faerun emanates. Um, and so one of the things that Dawn points out is that they are not large enough or advanced enough to hold that kind of arcane energy within themselves, which is why it's so difficult for there to be any wizards in a Shaw, and why divine magic, like a cleric hood, came a little bit easier, but even that was extremely difficult. So when it comes to looking for um, a new mage council, the eyes are all first turned to Reed, who genuinely considers it for some amount of time, but he uh, rejects, saying that's not something that he really wants to do. It's not something that he's interested in. He would much rather stick with his glass blowing, but he does essentially make a arrangement to where he will act as a kind of teacher for some of the arcane things to see if there are any mice in Shaw who do have the natural talent to hold arcane magic. And at that point, he will give them pretty much free access to Madameo's library, all of which is being left behind. Madameo isn't taking any of his books. And at that point, they'll pretty much decide if anyone comes forward enough with enough arcane power to be the Mage Council, then that's what they will do. But for now, there's technically an arcane teacher, but there is no mage council seat.
In that time, Joel would definitely contribute as much of his arcane knowledge to that repository. I'm sure a lot of it would be overlapped, but a lot of it would also be new too. So just as much as he could info dump in there.
Absolutely, absolutely. Suri herself, who is super taken by Joel, very quickly, she thinks that he is super duper pretty. She tries to make a push to change the cleric robes from purple to red, and Father Ansel goes, absolutely not.
Father Ansel doesn't even look over. It's just like
pretty much. She's like, when I'm head of the temple, I'm gonna make all of the robes red, and he's like, when you're head of the temple, you can do that. That's not going to be for a very long time though. So until then, wear your correct uniform.
Hater. Hater.
I think she should stage a coup and make everyone wear red robes.
Everyone wears red. What a hater. SMH. Anyway. Oh, I meant to ask, since like, the magic is kind of like, how did you say again that the sentience was gained by this community? It was kind of like ambient magic?
Yeah, the way that I have magic in my homebrew world essentially is that Faerun just kind of like generates it naturally, and it's very much like radiation. So it mutates things, but it mutates them in the way that like magic does, not in the way that like nuclear radiation does. So it makes them a little more whimsical, a little more fanciful, and a little more like powerful as well. And going from having like sentience of an animal to the sentience of a person, and that level of intelligence to where you now have an alignment, you now have like your morality system. You are now like capable of casting magic like with intent rather than just to hunt, defend, or survive. Is a pretty big part of some of the origins of like the races, I guess, in my world. And one of the ones that I wanted to, oh my god, my cat acting up. One of the ones that I wanted to introduce was the concept of beast folk, who essentially started out as like mundane animals, but through this kind of like irradiated magic process, they became just like furries.
Yeah.
And I have a tabaxi as being one of the well-known, the most well-known version of beast folk.
Okay. I asked that to bring attention to a few things, and also I'm going to homebrew and steal an element of your homebrew, because for
license.
one, does that mean that that life forms with like even less decision making skills and sentience also move up a level? So like insects and gnats are now on the level of like dogs.
It's a little rare, but I think insects would probably skip the animal stage and go kind of right to being more like humans. Because it's also a lot of the natural emanating magic is like creation magic, from when the gods were like putting um, their uh, their like humanoid representations of like whatever they wanted to make onto Faerun. So now the kind of just whatever Faerun produces naturally is meant to turn them into more like thinking beings.
Right. Okay. In that case,
Mm-hmm.
after that,
Okay.
to say,
Okay.
the character, I think I showed you a while ago, the character that I had who was like a little girl who with like Princess Peach age, who could be like 18 or 32 and has the staff and can summon gems. She is going to, I don't think I told you, but like basically all my characters are related. They're not like directly related, but they're probably all in the same like family, like head canon-y. So she will most definitely be sent a sparkling green beetle with sentience that is her sassy animal companion, and is also very bougie and likes money.
Hell yeah.
She would be having that. That would be pulling up and digging up money every once in a while, like those dung rollers, but like rolls diamonds around.
Yep.
Clink, 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 clink.
And also with the whole house.
Oh, I hear mischief.
Mischief.
She said, "This is about me." Now she's reclaiming her slot as campaign mascot.
She was, oh my goodness, my dear cat Supernova was supposed to be the campaign mascot. I even started it so that I would be able to celebrate her birthday on stream. I timed that very accordingly, but she is a little troublemaker, so I can't keep her in the same room as me with the faith that she's going to actually behave. Another give to how new the mice of the Shaw are into being closer to people and less like mice is that Natameo was one of the first ones who ever like woke up, so to say. And he himself is maybe in his 30th season or close to, which being there's 4 seasons in a year, so he's somewhere around like 5 years old, which is old as all hell for a mouse. Yeah, he was one of the first ones that gained sentience, which is why he is also one of the more powerful ones, arcane-wise.
Yeah.
Because he kind of had all of it like built up in himself, and he has seen the entire overseeing of like building a Shaw and learning things from the humans and teaching magic and creating and establishing this like whole community and like what they are. And so he's very, very connected to that, which kind of makes it all the more bittersweet for everyone who grew up with him as like a constant figure in their life, with him leaving as Dawn goes into exile.
It is a central element of the town's development, because when you think about how Dawn's actions affected everyone, that is like really core to what a Shaw is. Like doing all of these things really majorly affected how they will view her, they will view magic, how magic will be respected and treated in this community, like all of these things. Wow.
One of the other little bits of foreshadowing that I had that I really liked was the statue and the temple um, of the great mouse god holding the candle in a high hand and a grain of wheat in the low hand as a metaphor for lighting the way ahead and also giving to those who are in need, especially if you have excess. And the two sort of villains of the campaign, there is the higher villain of Dawn, who took all of the light from Ashaw when the Hellgeist was summoned by extinguishing all of the candles. And then the low hand, kind of a secondary villain of Selanawe, who wasn't sharing at all and was indeed hoarding in excess. And
The
so,
layers. See, this is
yeah, having the two kind of antagonistic characters being not only like not great people in their own right, but directly opposite of what a Shaw tries to like build itself on, was definitely something that I wanted to push towards and make like apparent as well.
I don't think we ever even talked to Selanawe, did we?
not one.
You passed by him like twice in a hallway, and he was like, "Hey," and y'all were like, "Sup," and then kept on going. But again, he's not super interesting of a character, and unless any of the players show themselves to be like particularly greedy, he will kind of keep his distance. Because if he notices that y'all are all a bunch of like little goody two shoes, he's gonna be like, maybe I shouldn't get them close to my whole like food hoarding thing.
Probably.
Well, yeah, I think if we had found out he was food hoarding, we might have just like ganked him.
Yeah, might have just like not.
Yep.
No.
And a lot of the story that you get when playing Mousecapades, for those of you who are interested in the actual PDF that I'm going to be putting out for it, a lot of the story is revealed based off of which council member you kind of get closer to. And it mostly depends on the personalities that are in the group. And the usual suspects that you're going to get is that Selanawe and Ansel are not going to get as close, whereas Bailey, Dawn, and Madameo kind of have an equal chance of getting attached to the group. And they all have different kind of perks depending on which one that you get the closest to, except for Dawn. Dawn, whoever she gets the closest to in the party, she will mind control in the fight against the Hellgeist, which is what happened to Joelle. Also, in the very, very beginning of the campaign, when you first met her, she gave all of you a cup of tea, and Joelle was the first one to drink his. And that is what gave him the essentially like mental availability to be more susceptible to her mind control. It was not actually attached to the scryer, it was attached to the tea. Because the thing that she can do where she puppets is just related to the tea, not the scryer, which is why it happened to Bailey so quickly.
That's so cool.
That's crazy.
Dawn was very, very hard to assign a class to, so I eventually just didn't. And with the actual module coming out as more system agnostic, that's actually a little bit better because I can break it down by what powers she is supposed to have, which she is very, very talented. Like, she is an actual prodigy in her own right. It's not just she makes portends and then creates the situations to where they actually come true. She predicted enough things completely, like, truthfully and genuinely in order to get them to trust her enough for her to pull off, the 5 big like apocalyptic moves and for people to actually believe her.
She is, I think, another thing that I like a lot about her. I love tropes. So like the magical girl trope is one of my favorite, and it's not my favorite because it's hot, but the hot witch trope is one of my favorites because I generally like characters that are hot witches. Mm-hmm. And also because they tend to be like really cool. Like they're hot, but they're also like what is it? What is her name?
Blair.
The one
Leader?
who's in that. No, the one who is the one from the show from the 50s where she's like a housewife.
Elvira?
No, her daughter, the lame one, the one who's like the one, the Why can't I think of it? There's
I have no
Bewitched,
idea.
Samantha from Bewitched.
Oh,
How she's
okay.
like, she's just like out here being like good mom TM, and then she's like a witch, and she like, and then she had that unusually really meaningful episode of them talking about racism and how she like had a really good grasp of it because people discriminated against her for being a witch, and she's just like super competent, and she's just like really cool. Like characters like that tend to just be great, and she has the makings of that. Dawn is like a magical, like an evil magical girl almost, you know, and like she has witch powers, but she's like very much a magical girl, and she's like doing all this cute stuff and being pleasant and whatnot. But like that is what her basis is, you know. That's really dope.
And there is a chance actually where if you get close enough to her, she might just reveal the plot that she has and try to get you to turn to her side. Um, and that was pretty close actually to happening with Joelle. Um, but we didn't quite have enough time for it, and I knew that that was going to be a subplot that drew it off a little bit too long. Um, but yeah, that was very very close to essentially all the beans being spilled. Uh,
It was
to
just the
try
right
to recruit
combination
Joelle.
of being, of also thinking that we're better than everyone, and also really being pretty, and also having empathy. So like
Yep.
just enough of like being nice and also being a bitch. Where like maybe you might have had me.
Yeah, you might have had Joelle if Ayla hadn't knocked her out with the back of a dagger twice.
Quite literally.
God,
I was
I
telling my
really
friend who was
love
watching
that
the
that
stream.
happened.
Yes, my friend was watching the stream and he was like, I went to go get water like in the split second before something happened to Dawn. What went on? I was like, Ayla did their trademark. And then, I didn't even get to finish the statement. I said, Ayla did their trademark. And my friend said, they knocked him in the back of the head with a knife. Head with a knife. He was like, I was like, yeah, they got Dawn in the back of the head with a knife. That's what happened.
There's a couple of really, really good moments of like the party just knocking Dawn like down a couple of sizes because she is like such a self-righteous character, and so like knocking her on the back of the head, like hurting her feelings by pretending to be sick and like breaking this like social faux pas of like rejecting her hospitality, and then at the very end when she's doing her villain monologue and everyone's just kind of like, shut up. I really, really enjoyed that because the first party that I played with this, the only other party that I played this with when it was starting to like be in development, they took her like so seriously, and they treated her like a very, very genuine threat instead of like as a child, and it made it like much more dramatic and a lot more intimidating and everything. But I just, yeah, I really did like having the perspective of like two actual teachers who deal with like, you know, bratty children
Yeah.
like this all the time, and especially Coram just being like, shut up. That was Ayla who said shut up, and Coram was the one who said it was always you.
Yeah.
Really like
No.
that.
Yeah. No.
Ayla's not a teacher, but like they travel with a circus, and there's always like a handful of like rowdy kids with the circus.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're kind of used to like people getting a little uppity about the circus. They're just like, I'm not here to listen to this.
Exactly.
I'm trying to think of what other like behind the scenes stuff to talk about because there's so many just like little things. Honestly, everything from like the creation of like the Hellgeist of like what it is, and then like
I
Bailey's
love the
stove.
Hellgeist.
Thank you.
We gotta talk about how we thought that the lamp killed, but that was actually the Hell guy. Because like we knew that like something happened, and like we definitely figured out that okay, wait. We also have to talk about how we were low-key right that the cat caught on fire.
we were like sold on the cat was on fire in the yard.
We made dots and connected them, and they weren't there. But the picture that we drew was the right picture, just somewhere else. It was just in the wrong spot. Because it was definitely a small quadruped mammal creature that functioned like a cat that was on fire, caught on fire, and ran around.
So I absolutely have to confess that the Hellgeist was not the intended like big bad from the very, very, very beginning of the campaign. The first time it like popped into my head, the original idea was like they have to save this mice town from this horrible beast, and it's like built up to be big and bad, and it's actually just the cat. And then I introduced this to my players, and I was like, "Oh, you have to save us from this horrible beast." And then they get there, and it's like, "Oh, we're all mice." And all of my players were like, "I bet this great beast is going to be a cat." And I didn't say anything, but I was in my like little DM screen, and it was the mice reveal was the big plot twist, and I was like, "Fuck you guys! I'm gonna make the worst thing you've ever seen in your life."
That
They
is
were like, "This
the
is
best
so
origin
obvious,
story
Joe."
ever.
They were like, "This
That is
is so
literally the best.
obvious."
Villain,
I was like,
And then the
origin
way
story.
I saw the cat, and I was like, "We're gonna have to kill that cat." I thought it
Yeah,
was
I
coming
was
too,
so
but like,
worried.
it was a perfect subversion. It was a perfect subversion, though. Because I was thinking, like, when we had the first cat fight, I was like, okay, we can actually take this cat if we have to. Because it's still a cat, you know? It's not like a death machine. It's a cat. We can do things to it to make it not want to kill us. And, like, the Hellgeist was like, oh, it's a cat, is it? It's a cat. Huh? I was like, uh-huh, sure.
Yeah,
Literally.
just the biggest brain of us sitting here for 10 minutes and being like, the lantern fell and the cat caught on fire and it jumped out the window.
And attacked everyone.
The Hellgeist does actually have some pretty close connections to the cat, in the sense of the summoning spell for it is something that I had to homebrew because the creature itself is a homebrew. And essentially, Hellgeist is what you summon just when you're very, very angry, and it's a manifestation of your anger that's supposed to fight for you. But if you lose control of it, it will fight against you. And so if you had managed to lead it back to the clock tower as well, Dawn would have tried to come out to speak to it and essentially give orders. And if she had lost control of like her temper, it would have begun attacking her as well. So that's another thing that you could have done to get rid of the Hellgeist, because if Dawn died, it would have evaporated essentially.
Oh.
Wow.
But you need something to base it off of, like a catalyst. And so Dawn was essentially like, what's one of the scariest things that I can present to a Shaw? This cat that terrorizes us whenever we try to leave. And one of the ingredients for the spell was the catnip to do part of the summoning. And so the first attempt to summon it was the incident in the grass. That was the first time that she ever tried to do the ritual, which was also what Aubrey had reported as seeing Dawn sneak out during the night multiple times, because it is a like days-long process of drawing things and mixing things together and doing incantations and all of this fun stuff of, you know, summoning literally like a hell creature. And so she had the catnip that she had to leave out in the circle for a couple of days, and it was starting to attract Ginger the cat, and also the noises of Ginger the cat walking around attracted Bailey. And essentially it was just really unfortunate coincidence that at the same time that Bailey decided to go check out what the noises were was when the cat decided to check out what the smell was of the catnip, and was also when Dawn tried to summon the Hellgeist for the first time.
Yeah.
So there was a whole bunch of chaos. Dawn accidentally knocked over the lamp in the upper story of the barn and caught it on fire, led the cat essentially away from her work. And when it got spooked by the fire and she went to go hide, the cat circled back around to the catnip, where it met Bailey, who was trying to put out the fire that had started to like spread to the grass because of the lamp oil falling from the window into the grass. And she was attacked by the cat there. And that's why she was very easily convinced that the cat and the Hellgeist were the same thing.
See, same dot, different location.
Like the cat did indeed kind of start a fire. It did jump out a window. Uh, the grass was indeed burned, and Bailey was technically right when she said that she was attacked by the Hellgeist.
That's so crazy. I gotta say, I loved how Bailey interacted with us with regards to like the event being something meaningful to her, because it was something where like if we knew everything, we could have been like summoning circle. You saw this thing, fire, summoned some form of demon aberration. That's what you saw. Bam, okay, let's go. But like that gave it more layers. Where not only could we not just be like, okay, what exactly did you see? Relate it to us as robotically as possible, and then we'll just go through our encyclopedia of stuff and find what it is. It ended up being a situation where like, okay, we have to like understand what this is rather than just like robotically assess what's going on, which was very organic.
And there is most of that information in Dawn's teapot, which Coram and Ayla did a pretty thorough investigation of, but they did not roll high enough on their investigation to find her little book with the Hellgeist ritual in it.
Wow.
Additionally, in the clock tower, the whole section of scrying that had been emptied out, it wasn't Dawn who had taken that, it was Madame Mayo who removed it out of guilt, essentially, because since scrying was something that he associated very heavily with Dawn, after the accident, he pretty much got rid of all of the things that he could that reminded him of what he considers to be the worst failure of his life. So in the rooms upstairs where Dawn was searching around at the end of the campaign was for not only all of the scrying books that she was trying to find, but also the little hand-bound journal, which was indeed Reed's old spell book, which she had messed up intentionally by overwriting the create food and water spell. Her intention behind that being to prove that if Reed couldn't tell that there is a mistake in such a simple spell, then he had no right to be the mage's apprentice in the first place.
The way that Mousecapades would make the best movie, like, like how I just thought about the montage of like, we know that Dawn did it and we're running to the clock tower while pretending that Joelle is dead. We're going through and like we're whispering to each other. Like we know that she can see through my eyes. We don't know exactly what's happening. We know that she is up there still. And like I'm on her shoulders, we're whispering, we're doing all stuff. We go up the tower, we go up the stairs, and like it cross cuts to a flashback of Madame Mayo putting the bowl away, putting the scrying bowl away, getting rid of the scrying stuff. We pull it out, it has a ton of dust on it. We blow it out, we start using it to see the stuff. Like we're doing everything symbolically that happened at the same time to remove what we're uncovering right now. Like it would just so visually execute all of those scenes at once. Just the way this would be the best movie ever. I'll watch this movie at least 12 times. Like, oh my gosh.
And finding the scrying stuff in the clock tower as well would have given you a lot more insight into what exactly Dawn is capable of. Because a lot of the scrying books would have had her own notes sort of scrawled in the margins, and she would have, she makes little passages and comments about what she has tried and what is the limits of like her own power in that regard. And so you do learn some of the things that she like cannot do, but you learn some of the really scary things that she can do, like the puppeting thing, the seeing through people's eyes, and also she has a power where she can switch places with someone who she is essentially like marked with this kind of like like
so
a teleportation,
cool.
And that is what she used to switch places with Reed.
At the end, I was like, "Cause how did you do this?" I was like, "Cause this was way too fast." I was like, "This was way too much."
And
see, because that's what I was trying to go so fast. Have us be over there and over here. We can find out what. And it was just no. I was like, "How is it decoy? We didn't even."
Yeah, so Reed has pretty much been her double for that since more or less like his accident, and he's never known about it because he hasn't um he's been avoiding magic too much to be able to kind of like detect that innately on himself. And the way where when you're kind of like magically inclined, you can feel it like in your skin. You can be like, I'm cursed. Like someone has like a ward or like a glyph that's been like placed
Right.
on me. Because he had ignored that so heavily he couldn't feel it. But yeah, that was something that Dawn would have employed to make like a quick escape. And unfortunately, because she did trade places with Reed into the glassblower's house, Basil the glassblower is dead. She did kill him on her way out to cover all of
On
her
her way
tracks.
out.
Um, yeah, that's something that didn't really get covered in the final episode. But Dawn, while running away, will absolutely knife anybody who tries to stop her or might reveal something or be a witness.
Yeah.
Once the Hellgeist is released, it is the event horizon more or less. There's no going back, and she is going to make all of the morally incorrect decisions.
That's crazy. That was dope though. That last section, I knew I was like, there's some stuff going on.
She originally was Reed's biological sister when I first started developing like them as a pair. And the first motivation that I had for her whole plot was that Reed's getting hurt um, was not something that she did. It was because Reed actually wasn't great at magic, but she blamed Madameo for it, for her brother getting injured and almost dying. And I cannot for the life of me actually remember why I changed it. But I think that the way that it was starting to work out made Madameo like really, really unsympathetic, and that's something that like I also really wanted to avoid because he is supposed to be
Yeah.
like a kind, like very timid, like dad sort of character. Uh, yeah, and so aside from making a couple of just like parenting mistakes, I do actually think that he was coming off as like way too neglectful in the original plot, and that's not how he was supposed to be.
Yeah. I feel that.
Oh yeah, another thing about Madameo that I told to some of the players but hasn't been revealed yet is him and Ansel. I think I had a couple of people who were asking about them uh, because it was mentioned that they raised Dawn together. And while Reed was pretty much under Madameo's care, and again, Madameo was more of a teacher than a parent, when he took in Dawn, he asked Ansel to help raise her because Ansel has a lot of apprentices, and he generally like runs the Sunday school, and he kind of helps with like the teachers, and so he has a lot more experience with like raising kids. Um, and they're not very affectionate characters. And so it was very, very low key, but they did kind of start to get into a bit of a relationship um, through all of their time, like bonding together. But after the accident with Reed, when that all kind of broke apart, and you know, Reed was no longer in their care, and Dawn was no longer in their care because she became like a council member and had a place of her own. Not very long afterwards, Madameo and Ansel, with the like catalyst of their relationship, kind of being removed, and Ansel becoming more like jaded because of it, and Madameo becoming more of like a nervous wreck because of it, just kind of grew apart. But those feelings are still there, and there is a thing where if you get them to like talk to each other about what happened, they can kind of reconcile.
We weren't the talky people enough.
Yeah.
It's totally fine. There's a lot of little things from Mousecapades. I wanted to make it to be like you know, the big story is going to be the same. There's the five portents. There's the letter from Madame Mayo. He shrinks you down. There's the fight with the Hellgeist at the end. But then all of like the extraneous details, like learning what happens to Reed, finding the warehouses in the junkyard, like getting the scrying stuff, finding out that Madame Mayo's staff that he has is actually the missing hour hand from his clock tower. And if it's put back, the clock tower starts working again.
That's
And
so cool.
It's one of the things where if you get very, very close to Matameo throughout the story, he will, if he gets the chance to, before Dawn gets to him, will try to make the clock tower work again, because each of the numbers that the hour hand points to creates a different ward that encircles a Shaw. And so you can essentially get like protections from different things, but it is very, very taxing on like the structure of the city, and things will start to like shake and kind of crumble and fall if it stays on for like more than 4 turns.
Oh my god! The way. Okay. Gonna fangirl. First of all, Dawn's teapot. I know that Joelle canonically does not understand the way that Dawn used her teapot to summon the Hell Guys, but over the probably 3 or 4 days that Joelle stays, he's going to just study the absolute mess out of that and just try to implement it in Bobbin's house so she can just summon just his foot, and just stomp on things. And just she gets mad, and bam, just his foot just stomps on someone. And just like, because it's too awesome. Like, it's so cool. And then to turn around and have basically not only her father, but basically her realist inspiration and mentor, someone who is a more traditional wizard, and her inspiration in a more broad sense, have basically the same concept, but turned up to 11 and used to defend people. It's like, you can't do. That's so cool.
It is one of the oldest pieces of magic in Asha. One of the first things that Matameo established when he became aware of his power was putting these wards into the clock tower.
And not to just bash everyone else, and also I am biased because you're awesome, but like, you know how in mainstream media, creativity in the most literal sense is just not at its max. It's just not where it needs to be. When you see something cool, it's usually cool strictly because it's so different most of the time. Something like that, not only narratively, the parallels that shows between them, but like literally, that's so dope. And then he like starts it, and like throughout the fight or throughout whatever he's defending them from, it'll hit the tower and do the dings and have the chimes that go through and probably rattle everything in the town. And like,
it is like a shockwave, essentially.
Exactly. But it's like, boom, empowers, protects everyone, keeps going, and like defending in a last stand where the barn is blowing away or something, you do that, everyone's fighting stuff off, they can survive. That's the apex, that's the height of this. The furthest this will go, the creativity, the inspiration, the power. That's so awesome. Literally never heard anything cooler than that in my life. Everything else is trash. That's amazing. That's so cool.
Rue, did you have anything that you wanted to add or say? I didn't want to take up all the time with my blabbing.
Oh no, I agree with Ari. I can't interact with media anymore because it's not Mousecapades.
Oh.
I can't. Media does not exist.
There are no more good villains.
There are no more good villains. There is no more interesting architecture. There is no more powerful ability and personality and narration integration. That intersection no longer exists.
Yeah, oh shoot, it just like went out of my head. It was something about the Hell Guys in the clock tower. That's it. Holly Hemlock, who did all of the portraits and stuff that you see, helped me with a lot of the details like that. They suggested the butterfly wings for Dawn Shawl. Suggested having like beetle chitin as some of like the armor, and also helped me come up with the grandfather clock, because one of the original ideas Yeah, one of the original ideas for Madame Mayo's staff was that it was the key to a music box. And if you went to the junkyard, there would be the music box where the key opens it and the lid opens up, and there's actually a stairwell that goes all the way down into the Underdark. And that was going to be like a
Whoa.
secret thing that he had. And that ended up being like a scrapped idea that might end up coming back in some fashion into the final product. But yeah,
Jet's
we eventually
sword.
decided.
Jet could have
But
a lance or a spear that's on that.
I would
That's
I would
so
love
cool.
to develop Jet a whole lot more.
Anyway, I'm sorry. Oh, it could be a halberd, and like the part that you hold, you like a skeleton key.
Yeah.
Ooh,
The
yeah.
part that you hold would be at the butt, and then the part with the key would be like the really cool
A blade,
point, and then the axe coming out. Yeah, and the blade. And also he feels like a halberdier, to be perfectly honest. Yeah, imagine coming down on a
I
think
Oh, I wanted to let you go.
I'm good. Jet is cool.
Jet is cool.
that is the end. Jet is cool.
Yeah, I mean, I love the environments that you built, and like the drawing I did of the teacups. I had like the concept sketch for that done like the first time you described them. And at every turn possible, I just tried to, without being too obvious what I was doing, get more and more details about the teapot from you.
Oh man, I did not catch on. If y'all haven't seen Rue's drawing of Don's little teapot house, I highly recommend that you go to his Twitter and check it out, because it's fucking incredible, and I would love to put that in the final.
Yeah,
in the final
I mean
document.
it's for you, so yeah.
Yay! I'm having so much fun collecting reference images and art and like other things to kind of work into. Some of the I really wanted the beetle chitin for the guard to be more of like a military dress kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I had the idea of the little kind of like skirmish that they had if it did get solved and kind of elevated into like a full on war. There was essentially going to be like a little World War-ish in the sense of having like, we might go to war and not come back. Let's throw a giant party and have a whole lot of fun before this happens. And then it essentially would have gone into like a ball episode. And the party would have been able to see how like a Shaw makes all of their fancy clothes, which includes
that would be cool.
Like super shiny iridescent beetle chitin armor. I would have had like you like to know like the fluff that like moths kind of have like around their neck. A lot of fashion kind of like evokes that with like the scarves. And it's very much like taken from nature and mostly taken from like the bugs that the mice are kind of around. And I love the idea of having these little mice with their fashion being influenced by like actual bugs.
Yeah.
That's a big brain undertaking, honestly, to say how would a society with no connection to any form of humanity in any kind of fashion influences draw its inspiration of form and pattern and extrapolate it from nature onto itself. What would it do? That's like such a huge ask.
And by virtue of living on Abershaw Acres, there were the humans that were kind of around, but the actual Abershaws, the barn was abandoned, so it's not like they were going to check it in. And so it makes it very, very convenient for when you get to the end of the campaign and you're like, do we have to go like talk to the Abershaws? No, we can just leave. Okay, all right, we'll just leave.
Cool.
But I do not know exactly how I would have had the Abershaws react if the Hellgeist fight went horribly wrong and the barn just immolated.
Ooh.
Or like the fight got taken outside.
Totally could have happened.
There's a couple of variables that I considered where Dawn takes a page from Madame Mayo's book and actually like grows the Hellgeist to like an absurd like size in comparative to like the real life sizes, and then you guys have to be returned to your actual sizes in order to fight it because now it's actually like a fucking dragon or something.
Wow, that would have been
So
there,
cool.
you know, the open-endedness. I think you really have a lot of power with the end, specifically because of like when it was raining and the way that the Hellgeist functions. If the Hellgeist kind of got out of control, you can make it easier for yourself to narratively like not let everything fall apart, and you can also like not put that barrier on yourself. And because you know how it works, and you know it has very specific functions. If it's raining or not proceeding, it kind of just does. It doesn't even feel like a plot hole or any kind of plot device because it's normal, and also has interacted with the flood. So like how all of these things work really lets you just say, okay, what's happened? Let's just make the story even crazier. Let's just make this even more meaningful and more personal. It's just so many layers to it. It is, oh my gosh, just hearing about it is making me freak out.
And the rainstorm that happens is not something that Dawn summons herself, which was something that was kind of like contemplated. It really was just kind of like her timing working out, and kind of going back into some of the little variables that you can do to create like buffs or debuffs for yourself during the Hellgeist fight. Like if you know, if Dawn gets like too much knowledge about Madameo's library through like searching through the party's eyes, or if she like discovers Aubrey a lot earlier, she can, you know, learn the magic to make the Hellgeist look even bigger. If it's raining and the Hellgeist goes outside, then of course there's going to be a little bit of like nerf for that. And then like Madameo and the clock tower, that's like a huge buff for like you as the party. And so I wanted to add make it like very kind of more by the books, like a choose your own adventure. I wanted to add in a lot of things for DMs to like not have to make up themselves when they run it, because that's one of my least favorite things about like little indie campaigns. How it's kind of like, here's the premise, which is really really great. All of the meat you gotta put in yourself, and it's all very kind of like one track the entire time. I wanted Mousecapades to be something that you cannot get the full experience of the first time around, unless you really, really want to do a super long campaign. And in that case, if you want to like fudge the timeline a little bit so that your players can like squeeze in absolutely everything, I'm sure that there's a way to be able to do that. But it is supposed to be a little bit more of like a time crunch, and so I wanted there to be some sort of encouragement to come back to it and play all of the side quests, even though the main quest is going to be the same.
The only thing that it really like forces you to do as a DM is say like, okay, how are you going to make all of the different things that you could do work with each other? That's the only thing that it really is like, it's this as a campaign is like making you do. Because if it's just like, okay, I just want them to run around and just look at cool stuff. Well, okay, you literally don't even have to think. Like you can just say, follow them and watch how they interact with things and just, okay, there's a cool thing for that. There's a cool thing for that. This character has a cool background for that. Like there's ways to do that. The only thing is like, how are you going to say, okay, now how does this all play into what decisions you made and make the story different for you in the end, which is like, honestly dead easy. And it creates really personal connections, I think, between the characters at the end. Because it's so even like every time we would do something and we would all just be like, look at Ayla and just be like, okay, go do it. Like the way that like
it was so funny because like we were so like dead set on like things that involved climbing and getting into weird spaces that it was like, okay, Ayla, go climb a wall.
Like every time. And like the connection that we made with the situation was just like, yeah. And how every time we needed to convince someone, I was like, okay, I'll go. I was like, I will talk to him.
Joelle, our charisma machine.
Like, yep, let's go. And even down to the final fight, and how we had Ayla in the thick of it as usual, almost dying frame one, almost dying instantly. But then it turned into Joelle tanking it, Coram suppressing it, and Ayla well, really finding out how everything functioned at the beginning and just making sure we weren't dead, and really giving us the positional advantage of not being right there was like, that was it. That was everything, that was how it functioned. And I feel like the way that this is going to work with even bigger parties, because this is a campaign that I feel like a party of even like 8 people could thrive in, which is crazy, but like I think it could still work very well.
The first group that I ran it for was a group of 7 people.
Yeah, which is like a lot, but seamless, excellent.
Yeah, and there is a lot of opportunity to like split the party and cover more ground, and for the most part, there's not a lot of danger that comes to splitting the party, which is something because I always want to encourage splitting the party and like everyone being able to play to their own strengths. But when you have a party of 3 people, it gets scarier because if you're splitting the party, someone is by themselves.
Yeah.
Even if they have Daisy coming along with them. Daisy is 4 months old and has no combat ability and also is a cow.
Every time one of us was alone, we regretted being alone. Every time.
and not every time something awful happened to you. The
True.
one part like near the end when like literally everyone in the party was in a different place with Ayla out shopping and Coram at the temple and Joelle at the grandfather clock, they had a beautiful shared moment of seeing the rain not flood a shaw. Which
I think that was one of my favorite moments. That was cute how that all happened.
The teapot with Ayla getting almost completely nuked by it. There's a couple of different places where Dawn has the summoning circles kind of like ready to go, and they just need to have like the lamp oil smashed into them in order to activate it and like summon the Hellgeist. And she has one in the teapot, which is her last resort because that's her house and that's where all of her plans are, and she doesn't want to like destroy it, but push came to shove and like she had to. There is one in the junkyard, and then there is another one in the grandfather clock. The one outside in the grass is completely ruined and can't be used anymore. But yeah, essentially, if she was backed into a corner, she would have used one of those 3. But her main goal was to try to sneak out and draw in the middle of the barn, so that it could emerge essentially a lot larger due to the lack of confine of space, and then just kind of like fire breath the entire wall where a Shaw is in an attempt to get rid of it. And that's one of the things that could have led to like, the Abershaws notice because half of their farm gets immolated. But it's pretty easy at that point to circumvent Dawn. When she starts getting that blatant, it's usually when the party is already like caught on, and she starts to, abandon some of her sneakiness in form of just kind of falling back on the plan B and whatever is easy and quick, even if it's not very like as effective as she would like it to be. Because with the destruction of her teapot is the destruction of like all of her components for the most part, except for the ones that were removed and brought to safety. All of her books, all of her plans. It's the teapot gone and the whole head of operations is gone. So that is something that she would want to avoid. And the wax being put on the walls for the rain was Ari, you kind of almost guessed this a little bit.
I was scared.
If there had been a little bit more time between the rainfall and the like figuring out the whole plot, and so she has to be like, I gotta act fast and some of the Hellgeist right now. There was supposed to be a flood of lamp oil that essentially was generated from the rune in the junkyard. And so the wax on the walls would keep the rain out, but when the lamp oil began flooding from the junkyard, it would keep all of it in. And that's what the flood was supposed to have been.
No. Yo.
Yeah, I was worried that the teapot was going to blow a hole in the ceiling.
Me too.
And then water was going to flood in and get trapped by the wax on the walls.
That's also what I thought would happen.
Yeah,
But that
you're
is as
absolutely correct in the
usual.
sense that it would have trapped all of the liquid inside of a Shaw had there been liquid inside of a Shaw, and that would have been much harder to evacuate. My
Yeah.
last party didn't manage to evacuate. A whole bunch of stuff got destroyed.
Oh.
Mm.
Yeah, it was.
It was.
It just was. It was
It
really
was.
tense.
Yeah, it was.
It was very tense, and they actually didn't find out that Dawn was evil until during the Hellgeist fight because she kept setting it back on fire and healing it. And eventually they were like, oh, you're not just dumb, you're doing this on purpose. Now we have to take you out. And by the time they figured that out, she had killed like a third of the guard under the guise of taking them back to the barracks to be healed and then just having their throats slit.
Holy shit.
Wow.
Yep. Oh, also,
Bad
speaking
bitch
of Hellgeist, the
alert.
little statue that I have. Ooh, look at that light.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
What the heck?
Oh, whoa, that's really cool.
I'm
Yes.
radiant. The statue that I have that inspired the Hellgeist, I have it right over here. Let me grab it.
Yeah.
Okay, let me make sure. Yes.
All right. So it's this cat statue,
Oh,
and this light is actually gonna like ruin this for me.
he's
Yes,
so
this little
long.
he is
Long.
for like comparison with like my hand. Like this is
Oh, yeah.
he is
He
tall,
long.
and so these are the exact proportions that I imagine the Hellgeist having when I ran it from my
Ew.
home game. That's the mini that I used for the Hellgeist.
That's so creepy.
It's like cat, but like Slenderman.
Yeah,
It's supposed to
That's
be
exactly what it
like
is.
too elongated and very, very unnatural, and it is like as an aberration, it's pretty much like as monstrous, destructive as you can get, and that's like entirely what it's meant to be.
I love that.
And I have a question. I have a question for you, Joe.
Yes.
Especially because I really like Dawn, and I kind of just wish that we could have been friends, sort of. Yeah, I do. Because Dawn is cute. Dawn is someone that I would be friends with now. I would just be like, okay, go off. Like, everything about her. But, like, I'm thinking, and I know that at the end, Dawn was supposed to be like consumed by her own idea of what she's supposed to be getting revenge on, and like just kind of be so centered on herself that she doesn't understand how she can approach the situation and the emotions she's feeling.
Mhm.
But what would have been her plan if everything like worked? Like if nobody ever suspected her and she used the Hellgeist and she burned up as much as she wanted and it didn't end up fighting against her and she got it to calm down and now everyone respected her. Like would she just turn everything into a fascist police state? You know, like what was her and like her hypothetical turned up to 11 end goal?
So the turn up to 11 end goal would have been the total destruction of a Shaw and like everyone in it. And from then on, it would kind of be up to the DM if you want to just like end it there, or if like you have to fight her directly and she's like super powered now. Like maybe she like merges with the Hellgeist, like does the inside the kaiju thing from Avatar that like you
Yeah,
had talked about. Or
yeah.
she could just kind of you know, leave um like the ruins of a Shaw and go somewhere to try to become more powerful to kind of continue the path of destruction. Um,
Mm.
or if it was more of the direction that you wanted her to be like a lot more pitiable of a character, she could have realized the wrongs essentially of her ways like far, far, far too late. After Shaw and everything was already gone. And then essentially like put herself into exile and gone and lived as a like a normal mouse in the woods to try to like distance herself from like a lifetime of mistakes. And since she does
Yeah.
have like the sentience, granted to her by the magic of being like a lot more closer in mind, like a humanoid, um, it's like she would have had like the memory of it forever as well. It's not like she would have gone back to being just like a normal animal.
I just had a kind of weird idea. Like, if she, you know, theoretically like went out into like some completely secluded woods and lived her entire life and then passed away like as a regular mouse, like the all of the power, all of the Faerun that was in her skeleton would like create an entire ecosystem of Faerun around her, like her skeleton, and like wherever she stayed, and just almost like be a cycle, but like just do that again, like create whatever it was again, and just like keep going with that because she's just her power, like it would have to.
Mm-hmm.
That's wild.
There's another interpretation that my partner, who was one of the original players in Mousecapades, kind of suggested as well, which was to have an element where Dawn is not actually at fault. Not entirely. She's still angry and she is still like irrationally so. But at some point during her research on what to do to take revenge, she learned about the Hellgeist. And one of the intrinsic qualities of the Hellgeist is when you learn about it, um, just the concept of it kind of takes root in your mind, and you become like very, very compelled to go like all the way with your revenge scheme and do the total destruction with the Hellgeist. And so, if you did want to make Dawn like a much more sympathetic character, that is like absolutely something that I could consider like throwing in as kind
Yeah,
of an alternate background for the DM to like choose if they would like to or not. Whereas essentially like the source of the anger is still her, but like the Hellgeist is corrupting and like how far she's willing to go to get her revenge.
definitely. It's taking root in something that could have, like I said, totally not been like that, been resolved completely differently. But that's something else that I really like about the story. Everything that really could have been avoided. You know how we always say that in media, like, oh, this whole story could have just not happened. That takes emotional maturity. Like, yeah, sure, it could have just not happened, but it's not like that. It's very easy to say that in hindsight. Like, it's very easy to be like, oh, y'all should have just talked about it before y'all broke up, or y'all should have just walked it out, or y'all should have just thought about it before you made that decision. Like, duh, they should have, but they didn't, and now this happens. It's like, yeah.
And yeah, indeed,
everyone
while
clowns
like
Romeo and Juliet. Like, hey, they're children, they're stupid. Yes, we understand that. Like,
exactly, and like yeah, Dawn is she is like irrational and kind of like immature with her anger, but she also like she is completely a child who's put into this role where she's like forced to grow up too fast, and so like while she does have the anger and like somewhere it's justified and like somewhere it's not, there's a lot of places throughout where if she had like focused less on how angry she was, she would have realized how much people actually like praise her all the time.
yeah.
Because like everyone from like even Father Ansel, who's like super like jaded and cynical and bitter, and just kind of has this like quarrel with her because she's like the youngest on the council, and he thinks she's too young, and she has the whole gripe with like her like him kind of being like a dad figure who sort of dipped. There's like a little bit of like weird bitterness there, but also like everyone in town just likes her so much and is like constantly
Mm-hmm.
saying it. And it might not like be to her face or like she can't see it, but like even Dimitri says that like she's really really pretty and very very nice. And completely genuinely, like people in the town really like her. But yeah, she just cannot focus on that essentially.
We stand emotionally deep and complex characters.
Yeah. I am
Okay, let me
super
see.
excited for the module to be released, which hopefully is going to be in autumn. I want to get a lot of art together. I want to get Holly to help me do more portraits because I
For the
love the art
mice.
style. Yes. Oh
We like
yes,
them
I really really would love to have her beautiful beautiful art in that, and then of course like the teacups. Peru, I'm looking for a cartographer to make the map of the Shaw, and I would love it
Ooh.
to have where it's like the map of the thoroughfare and also like the buildings that are like going up the walls and stuff.
Yeah.
And I just want more like visual representations of like how I see it in my head. So like it's so like specifically detailed. Like everything, it's very like clutterfuck. which is one of my favorite aesthetics, which is like most people call it like maximalism. But like
Yeah.
that borrowers thing where everything is just so tiny and detailed. I really want to capture that and like the art for a shawl that I put in the book. And there's a couple of things that I have to toy with as well. I'm working on making it system agnostic, which in some ways makes it harder because I have to rewrite a lot of things. But in the things that I'm like writing new, it makes it easier because I don't have to work with like D&D math, D&D balancing. I just kind of have to say like in order to do this it's easy, medium, hard, whatever that translates to in your dice setting. You can translate it
Yeah.
yourself. This is what the characters are capable of. um which I guess that is a little unfortunate for people who are looking to play. They will kind of have to adapt it to the system that they would like to use, but it's not super hard. It yeah, I've adapted like Call of Cthulhu games into D&D games before. It's all just ripping up the story and doing whatever you want with it.
And
But
a smart DM
yeah,
with good grasp of their game. We stand. Let me get this in big mode. We stand.
Oh, I love her.
oh, she's purring.
She just lets you hold her.
Oh yeah, she's a little rapscallion. She like
We
flies up into my lap
want
and
attention.
start to attack like my shoulder to try to climb on me.
She said, "Hold me the way I want you to."
Two of our roommates have a cat, and it lives with them in their room, but she also wanders around. And Otika has trained her to, when Otika pats her shoulder, Pepper will hop up to about like Otika's chest level, and then Otika will pick her up the rest of the way, and she'll sit on Otika's shoulders.
Oh, I
Yes.
love that. That means if I just hold Nova, like a little baby, she wants to curl up on my leg right now. She doesn't want to let me hold her, but I'll literally hold her like a little baby, just like against my shoulder, and she crosses her little paws on my shoulder and like puts her head on them,
Yes.
and she'll like lean her head into my neck, and she's like purring so hard that like her entire body is vibrating. She's
Yes.
a little affectionate animal, and I just wish
She said.
that she didn't have zoomies 23 hours out of every day. When she's calm, she's calm. When she's affectionate, she's so cute. But if if a beam of light looks at her the wrong way, she has to kill it.
Zoomies activate.
Exactly. If she lays
Love
in a
that.
patch of sunlight that's a little bit too cool, she has an attitude for the rest of the day.
Oh.
Such an expressive little baby.
I really wish we'd had the opportunity to go into the Underdark with Ayla. I feel like, because even though Ayla thrived a good 75% of the campaign, because like every other situation was like, let me climb this, let me balance on this, let me throw this, let me not kill this person. Everything was like Ayla just being competent.
Let me knock someone out.
Let me knock someone out. Let me sneak over here. Like it was all like, it was always, Ayla was always ready. And Ayla did have to be hampered by the fact that they only had 1/3 of a brain cell throughout the campaign. That was very difficult. That definitely had to, it reined it in a little bit.
When they knocked Dawn out the first time and stole the scrying supplies, and then took the climbed up the rope and then took the rafters to the clock tower to come back in through that, I got to the end of all of that, and then I think we had a break after that, and I was like, why didn't they just go back through the cello and tell someone in the cello oh, Dawn has collapsed, she's had some sort of illness? It didn't occur to Ayla because Ayla did not have the brain cell at that moment, and I was like, well, that was dumb, but that's okay.
That's
you were
fine.
so determined, cover your tracks, and I was completely going to let you roll with it. I was like, man, whatever Ayla wants to do, they can absolutely do. I love that you're committing so hard to this acrobat, secretive bit. Because as soon as you knocked Dawn out, I was like, okay, we're just gonna do a little time skip to Ayla back into the grandfather clock, and you were like, I need to cover all of my tracks. I need to make sure that no one sees me exiting this teapot. And I need to make sure that like when I go back, like no one sees me entering it after I've already been there, and because like Ayla went back to the exact same route. Oh, I loved it so much.
Literally.
I think it's just part of players will never know like how dangerous something is and like what their DM will let them get away with. And it's something that like I do as a player, and it's something that I do as like a GM and like my own home games and stuff. I will always complicate everything and be like, I know exactly what I'm doing. It has to be this meticulous. And then whenever I'm a DM, I'm like, I will let you fast travel 4 miles to the next town if you want. Like,
yeah, me too. Like whenever I'm DMing for my home group, it's like, okay, this carriage ride that you're taking will, like, with the distance it is, will take like 5 days. Do you want to just like roll your watches once and not 7 times?
we said fuck random encounters in this game.
Yeah, it's too much work.
We don't care.
I literally
Assume
like,
that you won.
Right, I don't get enough time in the day to be like, oh, you're gonna be traveling through the woods for 3 hours. Let's roll. It's goblins, or it's a pack of dire wolves, and it has
Goblins that don't add to the narrative.
Yeah.
it's like nothing to do with story, but it's a fight for the sake of a fight. And I was like, I'm totally cool with like playing it because anytime I get to play a character, it's fun. But as a DM, I'm like, nah, fuck that.
That's for when you have weekly D&D meetings at your house and with your neighbors, and you can do that.
Even in like my weekly home game where we have like no time constraints or anything, if we're traveling, I'm always just like, yeah, you go through the woods, it's pretty, you have a real nice camp. I love setting up like beautiful scenes for them to like role play with.
Yeah.
But like as far as combat goes, I'm like, which is incredible that I created such a incredible final battle stat block for this. Is so much meticulous shit that went into the Hellgeist. It has 2 phases, which I might be suing Wizards of the Coast for ripping off my idea of final boss monsters having phases. I'll see you in hell. I'll see you in court, and then I will see you in hell.
Then I will see you in hell.
Yeah, my home group is a bunch of 90s gamers who don't believe in boss fights that don't have phases. And so after spending a little bit of time with them and being like, yeah, this mice thing, I think I actually want to kind of like tailor to them as a group. I made the final battle have the 2 phases. So there's the oil phase and then there's the fire phase, and it is very, very easy to trap yourself in an endless cycle of going between phases by just continuously casting fire spells at it. Because if it's in the oil phase and it takes fire damage, it goes into the fire phase, which is much stronger. And while it's in the fire phase, any more fire damage that it takes will heal it. And it'll get like all of its health back whenever it switches between phases. And so you have to kill it in the oil phase as fast as possible, or else like shit gets really, really hairy.
I think the only part about the Hellgeist that was, I don't even want to say bad, but like unfortunate, is that it suffered from the same things that like you said, traditional 90s boss fights suffer from, like in Zelda, where if you learn how to beat it in your first interaction, then you only have to continue doing that. And it's like, not that we did, because we actually didn't know it, and we probably still would have done the bomb thing and like screwed ourselves if we had the opportunity, like if we thought we were pushed to that extent. But like,
as soon as you all started talking about bombs, I got nervous. Like as a DM, I was like, I don't want to kill my players. I do not want to kill my players. This might just like supercharge this thing.
We definitely, because we were about to give it all the damage. We were about to give it all of the health, bro. We were about to give it 800.
We were like, we've got a sorcerer and a light cleric. What we're gonna do is some fucking fire damage. And I was like, I can't say anything.
Yeah, and Ayla was like, yeah, I can throw a knife at your bomb and blow it up inside the cat.
I could just see Joe watching us being like, and then internal Joe was like, I was like, I can throw a knife at a bomb inside of an oil monster and then shoot fire lasers at it. And I was like, please don't do that. You will die.
You know, even at the beginning when Corum was like, I hit it with a firebolt, I was like, all right, buddy. All right, buddy. We're gonna unlock the true potential of this thing one round in.
Yeah. But the part about
Ayla
it
inside on fire.
It translates to, like you said, that choose your own adventure perspective, because if you try to just like stomp through this, then it's going to be just like a 90s boss fight where you will never win because you don't know how to actually beat it. And the fact that Corum had Ray of Frost and its reaction to it was so potent that we were like, okay, well, we don't want it to be on fire. And it looked like that really hurt. So let's keep doing this. Like, we can just do that. And it's pretty honestly great that Ayla isn't the one who was mind controlled, because that would have screwed us. Like, that would have actually killed us. But like, even Corum would have been okay. We could have done what we did and just I draw attention and then Ayla just knocks him out. But like, Ayla would have been like, I'm killing you. And we would have been like,
yeah, when they're not holding their damage back, like, rogues are just kind of like baby killing machines.
They just snipe. They're just actual, like, I don't remember the classification, but like those mid-range sniper pistol users that are like, they work off getting headshots and stuff, and they just can like steamroll people. That's what Ayla is. And that would have been impossible, but we still had the balance of like creating space, reading what it's doing, not being right up on it, you know, doing all of the right stuff that let us kind of just move through it like a trad boss fight with the correct execution. And I feel like, I hate to say this because like, this is kind of like punishing people for being bad, but like, I feel like it maybe should have another phase when you are about to kill it. And I'm like, I hate to say that because then it's like, if you did what your other team did and like barely make it and then it has another one, like that would be unfair. But maybe like, what is it? Like another 90s trad boss thing where like it splits and it becomes exponentially weaker.
Or it like summons like minions kind of like
exactly.
of itself, like little just like a wave of like ads that are like super low level, but you really have to like bullet hell your way through them.
And if you still didn't learn, then you're super screwed. But if you know what you're doing, then it's not really anything. And that's just, I feel like I'm just nitpicking at this point. But like,
no,
just because it was one of those, it's definitely.
I was gonna say, I want all critiques and criticisms, anything that I can improve on. My cat fell asleep.
Oh.
Yeah, like I ask for like you know, tell me like what I'm doing wrong, tell me what I could fix all the time, and for the most part, people come back with like, it's perfect, I love it, and I'm like, no, like, insult
that's
me.
That's not what I want. I think that definitely should be up to the DM's discretion, because it's one of those things where it's like, you can see if they're steamrolling. If you have a team of like 12 people who only know ice spells, they're not going to really run into a lot of issues with it. So
also, if you're playing with like a higher level party, I think that would actually be like really fun to add in things where like, if you're playing with higher levels, like here's how to make it more difficult. Be either like higher DCs for some things, like maybe some characters like keep secrets a little bit too hard. Like maybe the guard is like in like disarray and won't help you as much during the Hellgeist fight, or like the Hellgeist having like a third phase. It is technically a legendary creature, even though the CR, I scale it for whichever party I'm playing against, because you usually throw like legendary creatures against a level 3 party. But the idea of having a creature powerful enough to have like legendary actions is something that I'm like really, really big on. And a lot of the legendary actions that it has are slow to come through in combat. Like the thing that it has with like the tendrils,
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
It can
yeah,
cast up to 5 of those, and usually it wants to have all 5 cast before it does its big like necrotic thing. Um, just because it like maximizes the damage for each tendril that it has out. It's another like D10 that you roll. And essentially, anyone who is ensnared in one of these tendrils will begin taking like waves of necrotic damage for as long as it like stays within it. And that
yeah,
itself is meant to take out the guard. Specifically, if the guard is being a little like too helpful, is making the boss too easy for the players.
yeah.
But it also can be just like if you want to be like super brutal to your players, you can very easily turn that into a TPK if you'd want to up
Yeah.
the DC by like 2 or 3 points and only target the party members instead of the guard or like the extraneous NPCs.
And I feel like it also has a very traditional boss learning curve where like I said, we had one of the runs where like you get punished once and then you succeed once and then you don't ever do the thing that got you punished and you keep doing the thing that succeeds until you win. Like that we had a very traditional run in that sense. And on top of that, the only damage control that we really had to do was Joel getting possessed, which I will probably concede that it was moderately lucky that Ada was so successful at just not only not killing Joel, but like apprehending him quickly. They were like not only the best suited to do that, but it was also fortunate that it happened that way because Joel could have started raining on top. He also can't hurt people who aren't hostile without the sensor, but would have started like doing stuff. So even that was like the best speed run approach. But like with something where it's like not the best speedrun approach, basically, having those tendrils like not kill you instantly is kind of like, okay, look at this. Like if you don't focus on this, you could just die. And like you said, with more people, if it like waits until it gets everyone, it kind of gives you like an understanding, like don't let it get everyone, or else everyone will get like half health, and we might just like die right away. And like we didn't get to that point where it starts giving you those new levels of danger, but I think that's a fantastic idea.
And the legendary actions also change between what phase it's in, because it can only do the tendrils when it's in its oil phase, and when it's in its fire phase, it has the fear for if you're looking into its eyes. And essentially, there's like a little blurb on the stat block where it's like if a character says that they're like looking at the Hellgeist, and Hellgeist is in a position where it's like facing towards the character, and the character doesn't specify that they aren't looking in its eyes, they get a glimpse of like the hell, essentially like all of the abyssal planes in its pupils, and go under the like frightened effect if they fail their DC. And then that's something that the fire form has, and then the fire form also has like if you're in like melee range of it, you start to take fire damage. If you attack it with a melee, if you attack it with like a melee attack, then you take the fire damage. When it's in its oil phase, if you hit it with a melee attack, you have to make a strength check in order to like not lose your weapon or something. And if you're a monk hitting it with like bare fists, then you have to avoid getting stuck. And like you can absolutely like get sucked into the Hellgeist and like drown, which isn't something that like it tries to do. But it's just kind of a fact of like what happens when you have a creature made of liquid.
Yeah.
And depending on it's such like a roleplay heavy game or a roleplay heavy like module essentially because it's framed as something where it's just kind of like generic boss, which is something that I wanted to do because I wanted the fact that it was like an apocalypse to be more of a surprise. Because it's I want to be framed like super cottagecore and like you go into like these cute little like town of like nice people and it's all Beatrix Potter and stuff, and then actually it's the plot of Majora's Mask, and this whole town is about to end like as we know it, and there it becomes a lot more of like an investigation thing rather than just like a fight through a dungeon thing, and so it has to be very like role play heavy, and I wanted to include a lot of elements where there was like always not just an ally but like a genuine friend to make, And there were a couple of characters who were very standoffish, like Ansel had a lot of, preconceived notions about the party as outsiders. Same thing with like Thorn, one of the guard masters. And I wanted to include that, like, while there were these like touchy characters, like pretty much all of them have a soft side. And there's always going to be a character of like some import of power who like will come to the party's aid, or like will believe them if they get into a pinch. Ada very much became that for the party, because by like bonding with them the way that they did, and like going to hang out with the guard and like ride the animals and be like very, very concerned about like Bailey's well-being. The guard masters very, very heavily trusted the party. And so like when Coram called for help, when Bailey was attacking him, they, no questions asked, like immediately believed, and was like, we have to restrain Bailey because like we know what she can do. Like we also have to care for Coram. And when Joelle was turned as well, there was a kind of like what's going on, but it was a like they did very truly like trust Joelle, and it was because like they had won, or the party had like won over their affections by hanging out with them so much. And Bailey is also kind of one of those like bristly characters, but she has such like a soft like interior to her, and she's just kind of like jaded from being so devoted to like protecting all of her people. Like, she really is kind of everyone's big sister, and so she comes across as very like standoffish and abrasive. But if you prove to be a very, very like family oriented person, or if you prove to be like a super honorable warrior, like she will open up to you immediately. And the care that the party displayed for each other, especially when Joel like wiped the fuck out on his little like rabbit or whatever, and everyone was immediately concerned. That was something that would resonate within the guard as well, and causes them to come to your aid a lot faster during the fight with the Hellgeist. Similarly, if you attach more to the clergy and like Father Ansel and Cerie, then the clerics will heal the party during the fight with the Hellgeist. And then if you if you befriend, like if you manage to befriend Selenalway, he can give expensive spell components to the party if they don't have some of the things that are needed for that. Like if someone dies, he has diamonds for revivify. And then Metameo, if you attached to him very, very closely, he will have the opportunity to like enchant an item or something, or like a piece of armor, make it a +1.
Oh wow.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking about how not even convenient, but like pleasant and organic it was when Coram was dealing with Bailey. And I was scared because I was like, I hate when we split up because something happens, we don't know what's going on. That's it. Because not that we can't do anything. We can beat anything, we can heal each other, we're fine. But I was like, I don't want something to happen and then they're tied up and then the world starts ending and we don't know what's happening. I'm like, that's what I don't want to happen. But for when Bailey was doing what she was doing and Coram was like, hey, I need help. And it kind of just was like, okay. And then they restrained her, and then he got to give her the healing potion, and like it kind of just like started working. Like it was okay. Like we could solve this problem because we have resources and people are listening. I was like, this is fantastic. I think the only thing that I was really pressed about with me, the only thing, I know it's small, but was that Joel, and granted, he was pretending to be dead, he was pretending to be dying, so he couldn't focus very well. But to not go back and be like, Bailey, are you good? Like, we know Dawn is evil. We know T messes people up. Like, I should have expected a sarcastic remark or something from Bailey, but I was already in the middle of something. We were in a time-sensitive situation, so I wasn't paying attention. But in hindsight, I was like, yo, definitely should have been like, Bailey, hello, what the heck? Are you good? Are you sure? Like, we all know that Dawn is crazy. Like, I need you to make me believe that you are okay. Like, I just kept going. Granted, we were doing something, but still, I was like, dang, should have been on that.
Just kind of blew past that
I blew past every other person, and I don't think anyone else was there, right? I was on my way to meet up with everyone else.
Yeah. That was
Yeah.
also the same instance in which you missed Matameo. Because
Yeah.
Matameo gets kidnapped on his way coming home from the council meeting, going back to the grandfather clock. And that's why he just
happening.
completely disappears. Like you pass him in the hallway and then he's just like gone.
Because I was thinking like we took good advantage of our time, pillaging the teapot, making Don be a decoy, trying to find out what was going on. But we didn't anticipate that Don would be so proactive in like stopping other people from being able to do anything. So we kind of were like, okay, now we have time to start moving around and working, and we just didn't. Like that was the time to start moving. The time that we used to make sure that Dawn was evil was the time. And fortunately, it at least gave us the groundwork to go and make sure Bailey was okay, because we still did do that.
Mm-hmm.
Come back, get our base put together, and try to get any insight on what was going on. And unfortunately, not get anyone on our side. We didn't get Father Ansel to do anything or get anyone. But we got to not like be blindsided and not die. So like we got some basis, you know.
Yeah, the only like thing close to like a mistake that I would even say that the party made was trying to convince Father Ansel that Dawn, because in all of the council members and like some of the NPCs that you like get a little closer to, like they don't provide like the same things like the council would, but you can of course get closer to like Reed, you can get closer to like Zeta Busybee or like Grandmother Bobbin. Like some little NPCs will have like small things they can give you, but it's not as big and like story changing as like the council. I lost my entire train of thought.
You said the only like mistake that we would have made was targeting Ansel.
So I have set up the reactions of the council members of what they will do essentially if you come to them and be like, we know it's Dawn and it's her fault behind everything. And that is that Matameo and Ansel will not believe you. You have to present such concrete physical evidence that it would make them look like stupid to say no. But like just word of mouth, they will refute everything and they will like make themselves like almost look like a fool. They will to like really protect her. Because even Ansel with like how bitter he is and stuff, like that's still kind of like his daughter.
Yeah.
And so he very genuinely wants to believe that like she's a super good person. Selin Alway, as I already said, he's like, oh cool, like we can get rid of her. That I'm totally fine with that.
Great.
I'm a greaseball kind of dude. And then Bailey would have been conflicted in the sense that she wouldn't have immediately believed you, but she would have gone and searched for evidence herself and would have not shared her knowledge with Dawn as openly as before. So she would, again, not be like, oh yeah, I'm totally on your side, but she would have been like, okay, hold your horses for a second. I don't believe you. I wouldn't like you to continue like I wouldn't like it if you like continued saying all of this stuff. Just like chill. And then without telling the party, she goes and kind of does her own investigation, and of course comes up with the fact that they're totally right. And will come to the party within like the day or so, like 8 hours or whatever, and be like, hey, you're totally correct. What can we do here? And then having Bailey on your side puts the entirety of the guard on your side, and which then have more of a basis to win over Matameo and Ansel. And if you can get everyone to find out that it's Dawn's fault before like the Hellgeist is even summoned, I think that'd be like the fastest way probably to really speed run the game is to have the whole greeting with Matameo. You know, he takes you to say hello to Dawn so that she can introduce herself and relay all of like the portents. And then just like, you know, Matameo leaves, knock out Dawn, search her house, find all of the evidence. Campaign ends right there.
Campaign ends, right.
It depends on how immediately suspicious that you want to be of Dawn.
Right. I feel like in line with that, the only mistake that we made, which is like kind of on your sentiment, isn't even really a mistake, is that we kind of like over relied on Aubrey's like omnipresence.
Yeah, and
Like,
Aubrey does have a lot of knowledge that nobody else in town has.
yeah, and it's like she was a very powerful ally in the way that we ended up running the campaign, which was kind of like sneaking and just getting stuff and learning a little bit here and there. But like in terms of just like pulling up and being like, all right, let's go. Aubrey was like, bye. I'm already in Lesbianville. And we were like, dang. And we hadn't made any relationships with anyone who would have believed us. So it was just one of those things where like we kind of compositionally just didn't arm ourselves to be, you know, in that position. To have all the allies.
Aubrey is one of my favorite kind of like underrated characters that my first party didn't find at all. And the way that she was like conceptualized was completely different. In the first like iteration, like the party didn't even find her, so I got to scrap that entirely. She is like pretty much the most like secret unlockable character that you can get. And I definitely wanted her to be in this campaign, but I didn't want to force it. But I decided that there is going to be a number of NPCs, like literally 5 total, aside from the council members, in the town who know of like what she really does concerning like her black market stuff. Not the fact that like all the kids are the secret runner society or anything, because no one knows that. In like the council or even the only ones who are kind of like aware of the fact that there are these runners. But yeah, the fact that Joelle had the mushrooms. Now I can't remember the name of them.
The Claymore mushrooms?
The Claymore mushrooms, and that he presented them to Basil. And Basil already had attachments to Reed, and so since he was entrusted with like his apprenticeship, who Reed being an apprentice of the council was kind of like high up in terms of like social power in Ashaw, and so Basil had to be someone who like was trusted enough in order to do this. And if you have like that much social power, you know about like sort of dark underbelly of the society as well. And so I figured that like he would totally know about Aubrey. He would know how much Aubrey does not want to be known about, and so he is of course not advertising the fact that he's like telling other people about her. But the fact that Joelle had the Claymore mushrooms, which he saw as like dangerous and contraband, he was like, Aubrey would totally be interested in these people. And so I made that one of the ends, and probably one of the only ends that you can really get to find her, because she does clear up like a lot of things. She will pretty much immediately suggest for you to start being suspicious of Dawn if you aren't already. She'll tell you about like Dawn going out, and if you want to investigate that a little bit further, you can find out more about like the ritual that is involved
which
with
we did.
the Hellgeist.
Yeah.
If you ask her more about like her relationship with Dawn, she'll eventually tell you that Dawn used to be like in her care, and that's why Dawn doesn't like her at all, is because she knows that Aubrey knows that Dawn is not morally pure as she comes off across. And so she couldn't find Aubrey, but she was like, I have to get rid of her, because if anyone is the biggest threat to my plans, it's this person who knows that I was raised in like the seedy underbelly of the town.
Yeah.
And so yeah, she gives a lot of like really good info, including like the whole war thing. Her indirectly being responsible for a lot of the conflict through like getting people out of Ashaw to avoid like just the humiliation of being called like an abandoner or something. She has a lot of influence in the way that the war goes, and when she says like, hey, I'll do something to extend this 2-day treaty, like she will very vehemently stick by her word. And so if you guys like didn't manage to get back to the rats in time, like after the 2 days was up, they still wouldn't have done anything because at that point Aubrey had already gone and like talked to them and was like, "Yo, it's big understanding. It's my fault. I already have a lot of rep with you guys. These guys have a lot of rep with me. Just like chill a little bit." And then through her, you would have had an entrance into the Underdark if you wanted to go and explore it. And then you would learn a little bit more, like from Jet, some of the conflicts that they have, which include the whole mice going missing from a shawl and the food shortage and kind of like squabbling over resources. And I wanted to make the Underdark also come across as like more creepy than anything else. It's like they're sort of the Addams family, and the mice of the shawl don't trust them because they're like, just because they're like kind of creepy and weird. I didn't want it to be too much of like an othering thing, like an us versus them, or like the mice of the shawl were like
Yeah.
saw them as just like savages for
Yeah.
living in the sewer. Like I didn't want that to be a thing. I want it to be a very like the rivalry between like your high school baseball teams more
Yeah.
than anything.
I think
Now
it
I'm
definitely would
imagining
have
Mouse
been
High
able
School
to.
baseball.
I'm thinking literally right now. I'm thinking about like how we have Halloween a Shaw. We gotta have Halloween Underdark.
Oh yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
or actually, if there's Halloween a Shaw, it would probably be like Valentine's Day Underdark, and like just straight mood swap them. You know?
The sewers I had is very kind of excuse me, very diesel punk because there would have been more like metal down there because of like the
Yeah.
rebar and like pipes being incorporated into the infrastructure. So
Nice.
it would have been very very diesel punk in that kind of way, and opposite of where a shawl is all like wood and like nature things and is in a sort of like cottagey, in that sort of way. But I didn't want it to be like the sewers are where like the living situation is bad or like
Right.
no one there has like manners or anything. I was like, it's just a different baseball team. It's not even like
Right.
an
No
other side of the tracks kind of
socioeconomic
thing.
connotations. Literally just like, y'all are weird because you're not us. And then they're like, you're weird because you're not us.
Yeah,
That's like the
and
whole thing.
the fact like you guys putting Jet and Bailey together super quickly was not something that I was anticipating whatsoever. And so when y'all were immediately like, they're soulmates, I need fan fiction about this, I was like,
They're
shit, dude,
literally Romeo and Juliet.
out
They
of
come from the
everything.
everything. They're everything.
Oh man, maybe
Yeah.
maybe I will put more of a history for them.
Nah,
Yes.
Joel's got to come back and throw Halloween a shaw, and we just got to have petty high school. Our parade float is better than you rivalries. Stupid.
Homecoming.
Stupid, adorable nonsense. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, Bailey and Aubrey also had a bit of a connection. And if you wanted to learn more about Bailey, specifically how to get on her good side, if you were having particular trouble with like her abrasive personality, if you found Aubrey, Aubrey could have told you like, she likes family people and she likes warriors. And I had it so that Aubrey and Bailey used to be like schoolmates together. Because the schools are like done by seasons and everything, and so there's like the winter class and the fall class and like the spring class. Because the childhood for the mice is like very very small, and then their adulthood is like 4/5 of their life, so they do all of their schooling like super quickly and then go straight into like the apprenticeship and then getting their jobs and stuff. And so Bailey and Aubrey were really close friends, and Bailey got the guard apprenticeship and just threw herself into her work, and Aubrey wanted to be like a little bit more of a slacker. And so they used to be like best friends, but they kind of grew apart.
But they
they're
are the
still
same
best
thing.
friends. It's just that they live on literally the opposite sides of town.
They're the same thing. They do live on the opposite side. They're the same thing. They're the when the friends take different paths to get the same ideals. They're the same.
Yeah, and so there's like no animosity. It's just like, your middle school best friend when both of you are in your mid-20s and you're working your own jobs and your schedules don't really line up. It's kind of hard to reconnect. But like you always kind of know fundamental knowledge about that person, and that's how Aubrey is about Bailey.
That's so dope.
Also something that didn't manage to come up in game, but I wanted to mention it because it's important. Aubrey and Bailey are both trans because I was like, they deserve
Period.
it.
They deserve it.
They deserve it.
Yeah, there wasn't a whole lot of like romance that ended up being like thrown into the game, so I couldn't surround my players with gays the way that I like to do in most of my home games. Every
Right.
single couple, every single NPC couple, I'm just like they're all gay. No one can stop me. uh, so there was Vera and Adelaide, who got a bit of a mention, and then Matameo and Ansel, of course, and then uh, I guess you could probably interpret Bailey and Bailey and Aubrey as being a couple, but I don't know, Bailey and Jet.
Probably.
Maybe Bailey has two hands.
Bailey has two hands.
Bailey does have two hands.
Do.
Now Bailey and Jet is developing. They'll probably just date and then just be friends because they're probably just out here on being too militant and awesome to like stop being anything less of that together. You know?
I love the idea of Bailey and Jet being like battle buddies, and that if you kind of get the relationships up with the Underdark before the Hellgeist arrives, the Underdark
Yeah.
denizens come to help you, and you get to see the way that they fight side by side with the way that the guards fight. Which,
Yeah.
oh man, I actually put like a lot into the guards' like battle tactics.
Yeah. I was thinking about that.
And because they have a very if they're ever like rushing into battle with like another enemy that is either like numerous or just like very very big, they will have like the lines of like the quills, like the hedgehogs with the tower shields, and then the rabbits which will like jump over that line to like get into the fray, and the image of that in my head just made me so excited.
Yes. I feel like it's gonna be well, okay, for one, now there's the potential for this being like if you have a combined Bailey, Aubrey, like obviously there's different things that come from having connections with different characters, but having connections with multiple different characters will yield a slightly different result. So
Oh yeah.
having connections to Bailey and Aubrey and getting into the Underdark basically would be like the unlock to giving you access to that new layer. And I feel like it's kind of there's nothing that fights in Mousecapades at all in like a elegant way. Like there's no like rapier user. There's no like I mean there is like in a more traditional rapier way, but in like a nonsensical,
Yeah.
ballet rapier way that like isn't really real. There's nothing that's like mirroring that, but the concept of being like a snake lancer or like almost like the Mongols, like a frog short bow user, and like you leap up super high and snipe people and land, and like the way that it brings not only different battle actual play styles, but like different tactics, just so many more layers and levels to it, and it would just be so dope to see too.
One of the last things that I have about Bailey, which is something that you can again learn either from like her or Aubrey, is Bailey's stoat mount that she has. Um, is not super big to the plot or anything, but it is a creature that she like raised from like infancy, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And so like for people who don't know, stoats are like crazy like predator ferrets, essentially. They are some bloodthirsty little mongrels, and
Yeah.
the idea of like having one that like a mouse rides to where whatever a mouse is going to be fighting is probably going to still be prey to a stoat, and them having like this incredible bond is yeah, I really really like that, and I wanted to have it to show Bailey's sort of like dedication to her craft. And yeah, I think that's pretty much all of the Bailey secrets that I have out. I will probably inevitably be adding some more. I want to go back into my notes, of course, take some scrapped ideas, throw them around, and see what sticks, what I can add, what I can make optional for people who want to customize their game sort of to their liking. So yeah, I am really really excited for about Octoberish. Maybe I'll release it for my birthday. I was gonna do a trip over to Atlanta to go to an anime con for my 21st, but that's being canceled. So I think I might throw myself a little bit into my writing instead. So yeah, this is a pretty good place to wrap it up right here as we were about to reach our 3-hour mark. Sorry for no break this time. It was kind of fun to just sit and really ramble without a lot of the pressure. I had a whole lot of fun with this campaign, and I just want to give a big old thank you. I know I already did it on Twitter, but I want to say it again. Again, thank you guys for being here. Thank you all for playing. Like, thank you Nova for producing. Thank you Heroes Without Limits for hosting this and for letting me do this. And this is like, it's been my first time DMing for a stream, and like my first time like putting my content out into the ether as like a content creator. And this has been a really, really wonderful learning experience for me. And I just wanted to say like thank you from the bottom of my heart for watching, for playing, for being involved. Um, just everything about it. And with that, I guess that is the end of Mousecapades. This is the final bit. I would love in a couple of years after I've developed it a little bit more to maybe bring it back. Um, I would love to have all of my old players. Availability calls for it, and of course, I would love to bring new people into the fray so that we can have some fresh faces and fresh experiences. But it's probably going to be different enough by that time that I still think that that y'all and of course Miranda would uh, still be able to come back and experience new things while kind of like meeting old friends all over again.
Maybe we'll play characters with brain cells.
Maybe.
Perhaps.
Who knows?
Perhaps.
Perhaps.
So if you out there would like to run Mousecapades for your friends and would like to trick them into playing an apocalypse adventure when they thought they were playing a codic horror adventure, or if you just want to brand it as a full like cosmic horror thing, however you would like to do it, I want to make it very customizable for your experience and for whatever game that you're playing with it. So yeah, look at it, check it out for all of the character secrets, all of the details, all of the choose your own adventure. Um, and yeah, that'll be on my Twitter with a couple of the other projects that I'm working on right now. I've got 2 games in Twine, 2 like choose your own adventure games in Twine that I'm working on. I have a dating sim that I'm working on. I have a restaurant tabletop RPG that I'm working on, and I am always writing. I do fan fictions and I do original works, and I am for hire. So if you want me to write anything for you, please hit me up for that. I am Joe. I have been your game master for these past couple of months, and hopefully I will be your game master at some point in the future again, because this is a lot of fun, and I love centering my entire life around it. And yeah, that's it for me. I'm the cat in charge on Twitter, on TikTok, pretty much anywhere else except for Tumblr, which you're not allowed to have. And that has been it for me. Thank you so much for having me. Rue.
No Tumblr.
I'm Rue, and I'm Ilana Knight 13 on Twitter, and just Ilana Knight essentially everywhere else. The Ilana Knight on Tumblr is my art place, and not my personal Tumblr, which is illegal also. But I do a lot of art, like digital art, and then I also write tabletop stuff. I wrote my own horror RPG, which is what I'm running a game for Heroes Without Limits next season. And the applications are on the Heroes Without Limits Twitter and in the Discord. And I'm really excited to be running it, and I'd love to read your applications so that hopefully I can play with you. And yeah, I've had a lot of fun doing this, and like everything has been really phenomenal and great about like the channel, and all of the people I play with are great about like making me feel less anxious about this sort of stuff. So I really appreciate it, and I'd love to come along with you guys.
Oh yeah. Ari, take us home.
And I'm Ari. I'm on Twitter at @thefrog_prince. I'm on TikTok at @thefrogprince. That's one word. I've loved doing this. I don't think I've actually been in a long form campaign that actually concluded yet, and it's been such an awesome experience. This is also my first stream with Heroes Without Limits, and it has been genuinely life-changing and awesome to be in this environment and have access to these awesome people, and just everything about this has been so awesome. And I'm now at this point, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna be in Rue's horror RPG, so we're gonna have a good time with that one. But you can find me on Twitter at the Frog Prince, TikTok at the Frog _Prince, and we'll have a good time. Thank you again for having me and for being a part of this. It's awesome.
And thank you so much, guys, for being here with me. Our last shout outs go to our dearest, darlingest Miranda at M1 on Twitter. She's super funny and relatable. At Holly Hemlock on Twitter did all of our wonderful art portraits that you see here. At My Big Mood on Twitter did the layout that you see. And Nick Gift Nova Gaming on Twitter is running production for us pretty much every episode, more or less, that we've had of that. So thank you to them as well. Thank you once again to every one of you out there. And take care of yourself. Stay happy. Stay healthy. Good night.